but are now trading away one of their most valuable wings for a first-round pick. And all-star introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. With the all-star draft looming this weekend right before the all-star game is a new change to all-star weekend. We wanted to do our own all-star draft selections to see who could build the best team amongst the best talent in the NBA this season. We'll also discuss some of the all-star reserve selections and some of the potentially biggest snubs in a year that had a lot of all-star caliber players that should have made it, especially in the East. But let us know your thoughts down in the comments below who you think should have made it over some of the guys that were selected. Okay, I think that takes care of all that.
You might have lagged a little bit during the first one.
During the first one?
You lagged for me too.
Okay, I'll redo that one then. Yeah. And that was Kyrie.
Kyrie, yeah. I don't know if it's going to show up like that for you, but just to be safe.
Yeah, for sure. Kyrie intro. Ignore first. Use second. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. Within 48 hours, Kyrie Irving had requested a trade and was then sent to Dallas to play alongside Luka. Now, this is the best player that Luka's ever played with throughout his career. He's had Kristaps, he's had Jalen Brunson, this year he's had Christian Wood, but he's never had the caliber of player or, in terms of difficulty, he's going to have to deal with the high usage of a player of Kyrie Irving. So we'll discuss how this fit works in Dallas and some of the difficulties they have now after moving off of Dorian Finney-Smith, and what this means for Brooklyn now as a team that is led solely by Kevin Durant and no longer has a star alongside him with Kyrie out of town and James Harden out of town. Intro and 8:24. Okay. Should be good. Okay, we'll start with the Kyrie trade here. I'll get your thoughts first, Gabe. What was your thoughts initially when you heard that Kyrie Irving was going to be playing alongside Luka Doncic?
I'll be honest, I was quite shocked. I just looked at it and I'm like, the Mavericks? Like, huh. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, this seems really cool. I think this is a fit that can definitely work. And I do think that the Mavericks front office did a great job just for the long-term aspect of they finally did what people thought they wouldn't, and that's get a true star to put next to Luka. And especially a star like Kyrie Irving, I think the first thing everybody's head is going to go to, Kyrie played with LeBron, right? Kind of a ball-dominant guy, played a lot on the perimeter, did a lot of passing, kind of always like a triple-double threat type player. I'm not going to say they're the exact same, but I think there's a lot of similarities between like the role that Luka plays in the offense and the role that LeBron probably played in the offense in Cleveland. So I think it's something that Kyrie Irving's done before, and I'll probably be a little bit more willing to do in this situation, especially having a fresh environment, a fresh start. I know there was a lot of tension in Brooklyn. So I do think there could be a lot of good to come, and I do think Kyrie, if he plays to the potential we know he has, I think this could really take this team from a team we thought was going to make the playoffs to a team that could really make a deep run, because nobody looks great, and the Mavericks have had stretches where they've looked quite good with just Luka as the star.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned like kind of the Luka LeBron comparison. I think I was watching JJ's podcast, and they were talking about how like Luka kind of gets compared a little bit to LeBron, but also James Harden is like a comp. And I would say Kyrie played pretty good with James Harden too. Like when they were healthy and it was just him and Harden, they played pretty good and they were winning a lot of games that first season together. So, I'm excited for it. I was talking to some friends when Kyrie did announce or, request a trade. And I was like, the place I want to see is Dallas, but I'm like, I don't think it's going to happen. So as Gabe said, he was surprised. I was very surprised to see, that's the package that they accepted, especially when I saw like, the Lakers try to chime in. And I think it was the Suns offer Chris Paul and Jay Crowder and like some draft capital. So I'm like, that's the package that they decided to go with. So I don't know what kind of direction Brooklyn's going to. But for Dallas, It's exciting. We've never seen Luka with this caliber of a shot creator. Jalen Brunson was the best that he's ever played with, and they made it to the Western Conference Finals. They had a pretty successful run. Kyrie is an entirely different tier than Jalen Brunson, so this should be exciting. I'm hoping that it goes well. Kyrie re-signs so we can see them together, for more seasons to come, and not just the rest of this season. But it definitely adds a different element to that Western Conference, man, because all the talk all season's been, Luka doesn't have that much help. They miss Jalen Brunson so much, and now they got that guy. Now they are going to be missing like Dorian Finney-Smith, who was a big piece, especially what they do defensively. But when you got two kind of shot creators like that, it's going to make them a tough out no matter who they go against, just, on paper.
Yeah, definitely. Like you guys said, I think shocked is a pretty good term for how a lot of people felt, definitely how I felt when I saw this trade. Like you guys said, I just didn't expect Dallas to pull the trigger on such a move. Now, offensively, of course, we know how dominant this is going to be. They're going to have to figure out some chemistry things, but offensively, this team is going to be really good. There's no doubt about that. And that by themselves is going to give them a chance come playoff time to pretty much have a shot against anyone in a very open Western Conference right now. My biggest concern is the defense. The defense is really concerning to me. And we all know how much I value defense. We know I'm skeptical on Denver come playoff time because of the lack of defense. And Dallas are even worse than that. And they've just traded away their best wing defender. They're 24th in defensive rating this year. It's a lot worse than they were last year. Obviously, Christian Wood has been a big part of that because he's really helped their offense, but defensively, he's just not the same defensive impact that they had in Dwight Powell getting more minutes last year and Maxi Kleber getting more minutes last year. Him getting back from injury within the next week or two is going to be really important for their defense. So that's the biggest question mark for me. If I'm this Dallas team within the time of recording this over the next 16 hours or whatever it is till the deadline, they shouldn't be done. I think Christian Wood needs to be on the trade block. I think they need to be looking to move him for some pieces that fit this roster construction better because Christian Wood and Luke is a good fit, and it made sense before they had Kyrie to have more offensive production. I think they need to prioritize some guys that can protect the paint a bit better now, or if they move him for some better wing defenders. They need some more defensive pieces on this team more than they need the scoring of Christian Wood right now, in my opinion, especially come playoff time. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is a guy who they should be answering trade calls on as well for similar reasons. If they can get better paint protection, if they can get better wing defenders, I think they need to prioritize a little bit more defensive help on this team. A 3-and-D wing would be ideal. Even a Jason Tate from the Rockets, if they could get someone like him for cheap, could be a valuable pickup. So I think they've done well getting Kyrie, but I think they've still done a bit of disservice to how good this team can actually be if they don't make another move or two before the deadline to properly fill out this roster on the defensive end. Going to be a really fun team either way, going to be a really competitive team either way, and I think they still have a shot in the West, but that lack of defense might hurt them a little bit if they don't make another move or two just to tinker around a little bit.
I would hope they can shape up kind of the defensive side and kind of take care of some of those weaknesses. I do think there is something to be said for, like, if Kyrie is going to stick around for a while, which you would assume so, making this kind of trade, I don't think they're really viewing this as like a half-season rental, like buy-in or kind of we're out type of thing. So given that, I do think there's a real situation where they don't do much else and they just kind of go into the offseason. Because, I mean, looking at it, it's like you're saying their defense was already not great, and it's like there's only two teams below them that are playing for anything. So out of anybody that they're going to be playing in games that matter, it's just like they're already going to have the worst defense. I don't know if that's something you can necessarily fix at a trade deadline. I don't know how many huge defensive pieces are really on the market. So I really think at this point, they might just go all in and say, yeah, we're just going to outshoot you. We're just going to outscore you, see how far that takes us, and then really build something to contend next season.
Yeah, the only issue with that, this is why I'm kind of agreeing with Dev. Like, I hope that they do push as much as they can to make moves. Kyrie's so damn unpredictable. We don't know what the hell he's doing. He's probably thinking of this. He could be thinking of this like, I might just end up in LA in the offseason. Like, that could be his thought process. So the way the Western Conference is shaping up right now, like the conversation we have every week, we don't know who the hell is the best team out there. They would be smart to go in as much as they can, make the trades necessary to build a real championship roster or a team that can make that deep push to put themselves in the position to make it to the NBA Finals. Because the West is as wide open as it's probably going to be, right now, because there's so much just confusion and congestion. Why can't they be the team that steps out of that pack and make it to the finals? So hopefully tomorrow they are extremely buying, trying to shape up, fix up some of the defensive woes that could be possible on this team. I think it's good, though, because as Dev mentioned, they have the assets to do so. Like, I think a team would take a Christian Wood, if possible. Tim Hardaway Jr. is a guy that can shoot the lights out. Teams will take him. And, we'll just see, man. We'll see. But I think they would be smart to try and maximize and show Kyrie, like, we're serious about trying to win a championship here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you touched on the unpredictability of Kyrie because, like you say, unless he has signed the dotted line, you just don't know if he's going to be back next year. So while you have him, I think you have to try and put the best pieces you can together around Luka and Kyrie, especially because the West is so wide open. And even as good as their offense is going to be, it's very, very, very rare that bad defensive teams do anything in the playoffs, never mind make the finals. Okay defensive teams occasionally can make a run, but as bad as the Mavericks have been defensively this year, as good as their offense may be, there's just no shot they're going to make a run. So
yeah,
getting Cleveland back will help, but I think they need to make a move as well.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of when Brooklyn made the Harden trade. In that first season, like offensively, they were dominant. When all three of them were on the court, it seemed like they didn't lose. But, all it really takes, like, even if Kyrie and Luka together is just this world-class offense, like, they can't be stopped. They're scoring 125 every night. All it takes is one guy to go down with an injury, and then it's like it's all on the shoulders of Luka or Kyrie. And then it's like, those deficiencies will show eventually. So, yeah, definitely I hope that they are super buyers tomorrow still.
I guess definitely for the short term, I think that's the best thing. And like you mentioned with Kyrie, we really never do know. Who knows if he even, like by the end of this season, who even knows what's going to be happening. So there's so much that goes on there. I guess I'm just not really sure what that pathway looks like. It's just like, how do they do enough to go from the only teams below them? You got like Spurs, Pistons, Rockets, Hornets, who aren't playing for nothing. And then you have Utah and Portland, who might be playing for a little bit more like a play-in appearance, but aren't great. It's just, how do you go from that, trade away your best wing defender? What is your pathway to then becoming an average defense? I don't know how attainable that is with the pieces that are on the market.
Yeah.
I think part of their defense will be addition by subtraction too, because as much as Christian Wood is actually a little bit better defensively this year than he has been in previous years, he's still not a good defender. And if you can move him for a defensive piece and you get Maxi Kleber back, that might be enough to get you around league average. It won't be great, but it might be enough to get him around league average.
Yeah, and you're not getting to a top 10 defense unless you have guys that are hurt and they'll be back soon. Like, that just doesn't happen. It's very rare that happens. So, it's possible. The market, I'm glad you mentioned that, Gabe, because the market is just so weird. Like, we don't really know who's really available, what teams are buying, what teams could be selling. We don't really know. I think tomorrow it could be super chaotic and a bunch of random names just start getting moved, or it just might be a little quiet and this is the biggest trade that we'll see, or, maybe the most important trade that we will see.
I mean, yeah, 2 days ago, I did not expect a lot of players to be in the destinations they're at now. So
I mean, we thought Bones Highland was going to be the biggest name moved. like that's the discussion we were having like a week or two ago. So yeah, but I think one thing though, it's something fresh, man. The NBA never disappoints. Who really saw Kyrie Irving requesting a trade right after they were talking about contract extensions? Like, that kind of caught me off guard. But it doesn't surprise me because Brooklyn is just that kind of franchise. What's next for them? Like, they say they're not trading Kevin, but would it be smart for them to at least explore that option? Because teams would come knocking for Kevin Durant. We've seen that already.
Here's my thing with both Brooklyn and KD. When I went through a wave of thoughts of what I thought was going to happen when Kyrie requested a trade, and I have been wrong every step of the way. First, when Kyrie requested a trade, I was thinking, they're not going to trade him. They're just going to keep him. They're going to run with Kyrie and KD. This is going to be their last shot with their star duo. They'll see if they can win it this year. Clearly, I was wrong there as he was moved almost immediately. Initially, though, again, when I thought, okay, they're trading Kyrie, okay, this is your time now. You're getting assets back. Move off of KD. Start your rebuild with a ton of assets. You're in a good spot to do so now. You might as well cut your losses. The Kyrie and KD duo didn't work. Time to move on. Then I saw the trade return. I'm like, okay, maybe not. So now I'm in a situation where you got back another really good wing defender in Dorian Finney-Smith. You've got him and Royce O'Neal now, who they've done really well to acquire two really good 3-and-D wings over the past 6 to 8 months, which is really hard to do in this NBA where those types of players are so valuable and so coveted by every team across the league. You added back some scoring production and guard play as well, and Dinwiddie to obviously not do the same level of production as Kyrie, but still fill a bit of the void in there alongside KD for some of the shot creation and playmaking. And even though you're still lacking the second star, they have enough secondary shot creation and playmaking. And most importantly, I think have a really good defense now. You have a DPOY candidate in Claxton. You have another solid defender still in Ben Simmons. You've got Royce O'Neal. You've got Dorian Finney-Smith. There's a lot of solid defensive pieces on this team now to the point that this team could probably be a borderline top 10 defense period in this league. Throw that alongside KD and some of the other secondary shot creation. Even without Kyrie, I still really like this team. I still think they have a outside chance of being a contender this year. And I'd say keep KD and run it back, man. I think this defense is as good as it's been since KD's been there. And KD with a good defense, I can't count that out.
Yeah, there's been a really big just like revolving door of stars around KD and different, like there's been differences in the amount of depth over the time he's been there for sure. But I think right now, this is probably one of the best like collections you can get around a solo star. Like Devin said, this team is already 13th in defense and got better talent-wise on that side of the floor. I think just trading Kyrie and getting back Dorian Finney-Smith, I mean, just from a defensive side, like that's an improvement. Going from that, it's like I think that's probably the way to build around a solo star. If that's what you're going to do, this is your guy. They've got some shooting with, I mean, Curry, Joe Harris, still a couple guys there that can knock down threes. Yuta Watanabe, he was hot early in the season. For like, I do think there's a recipe there for success. It's just how far can a solo star team go? And we saw like Luka go pretty far last year in the West, but I don't know. I feel like I have a hard time personally trusting solo star teams to do really significant things. This era just seems to be so much about duos. And it's like now Dallas just got their duo, and now it's just like KD and a lot of role players. And while those role players might be nice, I feel like it might get into a situation where they're like, we're going to throw everything at KD, somebody else beat us. And while they have talent, while they have guys who can knock down shots, I feel like we've seen so many times that those guys end up being inconsistent, and then it leads to nobody else is able to beat the opponent. And that's when a team like Boston or a team like Milwaukee is just going to kill you.
Maybe Cam Thomas is going to be that second guy. I'm sorry, scoring 40 points in 3 straight games. That makes me a little interested, man. But yeah, it's interesting because they making that Kyrie trade, they did get back 2 very quality players. On top of like a team that they made moves in the offseason to become a deeper team. Like they made a lot of moves in the offseason that made them a deeper basketball team, which is what they lacked last season, especially when they got to the playoffs. You know, Blake Griffin was getting playoff minutes, which is just not good. Seth Curry was having to guard Jaylen Brown. That's just not good. But like you said, they got 2 good 3-and-D wings now. And they got guys like they may not have that second star, but they got guys who can be a second star on some nights. You know, I believe Cam Thomas can. Like he has that scoring ability. I think Spencer Dinwiddie can be that. Even the guy like TJ Warren can give you maybe 15 off the bench some nights. Like they got guys. You know, Seth Curry can have nights. Joe Harris can have nights where it gets hot. It's interesting. We just got to see Kevin get healthy. So I'm kind of with you guys. Like, go ahead, run the rest of the season, see how it goes, and maybe go into next season. If you guys have a good run, maybe make some extra moves to just strengthen this core. And who knows, man? All it takes is a little bit of luck to get out of your conference. Like just takes a little bit of luck, maybe some injury luck, and then you find yourself in the NBA Finals. Like, it's possible.
Yeah, personally, the Cam Thomas factor is just such an unknown to me because obviously this 3-game stretch has been insane. But even before that, in the past, like we've seen him have some of these just crazy performances where we're like, who is this guy and why is he scoring a bazillion points when he's not in the rotation half the time? And from watching him play, like he takes number one option type shots and he shoots the ball a lot. And
For sure.
I need to see his play style translate and just at least be like practiced or applied next to Kevin Durant. Because while I've seen him do good things, it's never while the other guys are playing. And am I saying that he can't do that? I'm not. But I am saying I think we need to see that before we start talking about it being a thing. Because it's like every time the team is healthy, it's like he's not even in the rotation. It's the strangest thing in the world for a guy to go from scoring 30 to not playing when half the time he's scoring 30 and wins or at least close losses. Like it's not like it's garbage time. And so it really is just this strange dynamic because I've said all of that without even mentioning the fact that you have a 34-year-old star player and this like guy who's now on the come up out of nowhere is 21. It's very interesting to me.
I don't think it's as weird because, I mean, half his rookie season was with Kevin Durant and James Harden there, and then Kyrie came back. So it kind of makes sense why he wasn't getting consistent playing time. And, this season has been a little spotty hit here and there. Mainly, you got Kevin, you got Kyrie. You added all these guys in the offseason. You got a lot of guard play already with Kyrie there. So it's like, do we really need another guy that takes those type of shots? Now they might need a guy that takes those kind of shots. I think what might make a difference is you got Jacques Vaughn as the head coach and not Steve Nash. Like, that might make a big time difference here. So I don't know. Like, it still is unknown because we haven't seen him do this kind of stuff with Kevin Durant on the court. But I think I would have a little more faith in it happening than him just all of a sudden falling off a cliff once KD gets back.
Yeah, definitely. And someone's got to replace the void of scoring from Kyrie. And he might be the guy who comes off as their sixth guy or the sixth man off the bench, becomes that primary, secondary scorer alongside Dinwiddie. And there's a legitimate role for him now on this team. And like you say, Jacques Vaughn is now the guy, and he might have a little bit more vote of confidence because of that and because of this recent stretch of games. So still a bit of an unknown, but definitely gives a little bit more intrigue to what Brooklyn can do moving forward into the playoffs. With that being said, let us know down in the comments below what your guys' thoughts are on this deal for Brooklyn and for Dallas, where KD is now the lone star in Brooklyn, and we see Kyrie Irving playing alongside Luka Doncic. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
At the 29-minute mark.
Oh,
Earliest I've ever done a piece.
No doubt. Okay, on to the next one.
Which one are we doing next? Just so I have the right pages pulled up.
The Russ trade.
Okay.
You good there, Gabe?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. It's 31-15. Okay. In the trade we've all been waiting for that finally sends Russell Westbrook out of town, the Lakers get D'Angelo Russell back as a Laker alongside Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley. The Utah Jazz receive Russell Westbrook, Juan Toscano Anderson, Damian Jones, and the infamous Lakers 2027 first-round pick that we've all heard about way too much in trade rumors over the last 6 months. And the Timberwolves get Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and a 2024 and 2026 second-round pick. We'll start with you, Tyrik, as the main headliner of the trade. How much does this trade actually help the Lakers for the rest of the season?
I'm not sure. I think they got better, definitely, because the Russ situation, it was just played out. I think it was time. They've been trying to move on from him for probably since the offseason. They've been trying to move on from Russell Westbrook. So it's good that it finally did happen. It's kind of funny how it happened after there was all these reports about during the game LeBron broke the record, how him and Darvin Ham were arguing. They said Russ was kind of like mad that they were trying so hard to get Braun the record that night instead of playing basketball. Like, it was a lot of, kind of back and forth that got reported earlier today. But I'm not sure how much this improves the Lakers. Like, they got better for sure. D'Angelo Russell is probably an upgrade fit-wise, I would say. But he's kind of been up and down over the last couple seasons. Like, his highs have been really good, but some of his lows have been really bad too. So, that's definitely an interesting thing. But he does have unfinished business in LA, so hopefully he comes with that kind of mentality. I love getting Vanderbilt. I think that's probably the piece I love the most in the trade, because they just needed that wing defense, somebody that can really get after on the defense side of the floor, something that they were missing. And now they got two really good, forwards in Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt that they can have in there that are very gritty. Rui's been playing really well for them so far. And Malik Beasley, anytime the Lakers get a shooter, it's a wild card, because we've seen guys that shoot 45% go to LA and can't hit the side of the backboard. Like, it's a wild card, man. But they got better, but does this really separate them, make them a team to watch out for? I'm not 100% sure, because this team is just still so unknown. We know what we're going to get from LeBron. If Anthony Davis is playing, it's good, but his injuries is always up in the air. You never know if he's going to be on the court or not. And then we just got to see, like, is D'Angelo Russell going to come in and be closer to All-Star D-Lo or closer to, first round of the playoffs D'Angelo Russell? Who knows? We don't know. So it's good. But Rob Pelinka did his thing. Like, on paper, it seems like the Lakers got what they needed in this trade.
Okay, so I really wish this trade happened while the Lakers were above 500, because they have a big hole to climb out of. But just looking at this roster, I like a lot of what I see. Like, I'm looking at the roster they have, and I actually feel incredibly positive. And I know things could turn out poorly. I know we've seen players come in that look talented, and then things just don't go the right way. There's not the right fit. But it's just looking at the roster they have. The first thing I want to point out when talking about a Lakers roster is the fact that besides LeBron and Patrick Beverley, nobody else in this rotation is above 30. For a team that we've talked about being old, beat up, a bunch of guys that like can't play anymore, or kind of like past their prime, kind of injury prone, guys that are playing a lot of games. I think a lot of that, well, I'm not going to say every guy that they have on the roster now is an Iron Man. I think seeing overwhelmingly a younger team than they've had for a lot of this past season stretches, that's a good positive for me. Then defense, especially interior defense, having AD, Thomas Bryant, who's played really well, and you brought in Vanderbilt, who's a great defender. You have solid defensive pieces. Malik Beasley, shooter. D'Angelo Russell, he's been pretty hot from three recently. Will that keep up? I'm not sure. And then you've just got some wild card guys. I mean, Austin Reeves, we know he can do some good things. He's a shooter as well. Dennis Schroeder's had his moments. Lonnie Walker's had his moments. It's like there's so much on this roster that I think can contribute. Guys that are younger, guys that I just think are a better fit overall than what they had before. And so while it's hard to say this is going to turn a team around from below 500, 13 seed to like contending for something legitimate, I don't know if you can really make that much of a swing. But what I will say is, if we had a full season of this roster, I would actually be feeling very optimistic, especially if LeBron and AD could keep up good play all year.
Yeah, I'm pretty with you on that. And like you say, I don't want to make any sweeping claims saying that they're going to be contenders right away. But I will say that I don't really feel any different to them to the other 9 teams that we kind of consider in the run in the West. They're probably number 10 for me now, and you can put them in any order you want. Whether they end up being near the top and they contend, that remains to be seen. But the biggest question is just going to be whether LeBron and AD can stay healthy, as it always has been with that team. And if they can, they're probably in the mix. And you touched on a lot of good points. Like you say, they have really good interior defense now. I really like the fit with Vanderbilt. I think his cutting ability is going to fit really well with LeBron. I think the fact that we know how well he can play alongside a shooting big man and Cat fits well in his minutes. So likely see with Thomas Bryant off the bench. They have a lot more shooting on this team now. You add in Malik Beasley. You have Lonnie Walker back from injury. You have D'Angelo Russell in. There's a lot better spacing on this team now than there was a few months ago. You have the secondary shot creation that is still there with D'Angelo Russell that you're losing from Russ, but a bit more of a perimeter threat than you had with Russ from a three-point shooting shot creation standpoint, which is just going to help this offense open out even more. And for the first time, and it feels like a couple of years, they actually have wing depth on this team. Rui Hachimura was a great addition. Jared Vanderbilt's a great addition. Like Troy Brown Jr. doesn't have to be playing regular rotational minutes now, and he was like a crucial wing for them a month ago. So as much as this team might not be where a LeBron and AD-led team would like to be, I think they have a chance that as long as they stay healthy, they're going to have a chance in pretty much any playoff series they have this upcoming postseason, assuming they make it, which is going to be the hardest part for them, given they are on the outside looking in right now. But it is still so tight in the West that they go on a little 4 or 5 game winning streak. They're right in the mix. But that being said, full kudos to the Lakers front office, which is not something I've been able to say much over the last couple of years since they won the title. But this team does look like the best Lakers team we have seen since they won a title, as far as I'm concerned.
I would say probably since 2021. That 2021 team was damn good until AD and Bron went down. They were really good, and defensively, that team was I think they were like top 3 in the league, even when AD and LeBron were out the lineup. So the last couple seasons, though, definitely like miles ahead. This roster is way better. And like you said, if you have LeBron and AD, if they're healthy and you make it to the playoffs, you have at least a puncher's chance in any series, really against anybody in the Western Conference. So, and another thing that I kind of like, I kind of made a joking tweet about this earlier. I said like the Lakers are basically rebuilding the 2022 Timberwolves. But I think that's a good thing, though, because Vanderbilt, Russell, Pat Bev, they're all familiar with each other. You know, they played with each other in the playoffs, so they had that familiarity with each other. They built a culture over there in Minnesota, so maybe they can, you know, just rekindle that in LA, and, you know, it can kind of feed off on the rest of the team as well. So that's kind of good, man. I'm damn surprised Rob Pelinka did something like good. He's made 2 good trades in the span of like a month, and he hasn't made any good moves in the last like year and a half. But has made 2 good trades in the last month, man. Shout out to the Pelinka. I didn't think I'd be saying that, but he's doing his thing lately.
Yeah, they turned Russ, who had his moments, but I think most people still considered a net negative, turned him into D'Angelo Russell, Vanderbilt. I mean, I guess the Rui trade was separate, but no other players. So just player-wise, you know, brought in Rui as well. Just getting all these players for essentially only getting rid of one talent who you considered a net negative most of the time.
Yeah, who nobody wanted
really,
in there.
Really impressive. Really impressive.
Yeah. I'm on the fence because obviously they were in Kyrie rumors. I think this return might be better for them than what they could have got out of Kyrie Irving, because in the Kyrie trade, hypothetically, they probably would have just got Kyrie and not anybody else that is of the caliber of a Jared Vanderbilt or potentially a Malik Beasley, you know, because somebody like Vanderbilt, that's like the type of player that this team's been missing. Somebody that's just tough. He's willing to pick up anybody 94 feet. Doesn't matter if it's Steph Curry or Hal Neto. It doesn't matter who it is. He's willing to do it. He'll guard bigs. He'll guard wing players. He'll guard anybody. and he just knows how to play without the basketball, like a really unselfish player too. So, they probably it's like a blessing in disguise, like not getting Kyrie Irving. This might be better for them in their current situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think they needed the shooting of Malik Beasley and you still needed that guard replacement that you get in D'Angelo Russell. But having that shooting, having that defense and physicality and rebounding and just winning basketball mentality that you get in Jared Vanderbilt, I think is a much better fit for the Lakers, no doubt. But moving on from the Lakers, this was a 3-team trade that saw the Jazz get a first-round pick. There wasn't really much to discuss with the Jazz other than the fact that they got another pick. And Danny Ainge is doing his thing, man. They keep accumulating firsts, and they know what they're doing. They got a first. They're going to have a ton of cap space moving into this year as well if they want to play around and get some vets to kind of remain semi-competitive again for the remainder of next season as well. So they have a lot of flexibility moving forward. But the team with a little bit more discussion in this trade is going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. They end up deciding to not extend D'Angelo Russell, who is an impending free agent. Instead, they go for Mike Conley. They also get back to Kill Alexander Walker, who could give them some depth guard play and a couple of second-round picks. I'll ask you, Tyrik, because I was discussing this with Gabe a bit before the pod. What do you think of Mike Conley's fit on this team as opposed to D'Angelo Russell?
I don't know. I've seen both sides of it. Timberwolves fans were saying if D'Lo is the piece given up for Mike Conley, Conley needs to be fired immediately. I don't know. I think Timberwolves fans are going to grow to like Mike Conley and what he brings to the team, man. Even though his highs, like he's probably not as explosive anymore as D'Angelo Russell is offensively, but he's going to bring steady guard play, and I think this team needs steady guard play more than anything. Just somebody that's a true point guard, a true floor general, a vet that's been in a lot of different playoff situations. I think they need that, man. I think they need that. I think they miss somebody like a Patrick Beverley, who's a vet, who's a real leader on a team. So, if you didn't want to extend D'Angelo Russell, I don't see any worse situation that you can get. And his contract situation isn't that terrible to where, you're going to be paying him like Westbrook type money, next season or anything. Like he's in a pretty good position. For them, I mean, I think they won tonight too. They got pieces. They got pieces there, man. I think this is even more buying into Anthony Edwards as our guy. So we don't need another guard that can go out and get 20 plus points a night or something like that. And for them, it's just about getting healthy, getting their bigs back because Luka Garza's been getting minutes, which is just not something that you want to see. So it's just about getting healthy, man. But I honestly like it. I like them getting Mike Conley. You take a flyer on Nikhil Alexander Walker. Maybe this is the time he gets that most improved player type of boost that we've been looking for. But nah. I like it, man. I think, like I said, Timberwolves fans, they'll probably grow to like this trade more over time.
Something I want to bring up that you didn't mention, right? Mike Conley was the point guard for Rudy Gobert last season. And so when that's your big man, that's your big piece you traded for, and you're trying to get steady guard play, steady vet guard play, having a guy that already has that chemistry built, and I'm not going to say knows how to maximize maybe, but at least knows how to do some really good things with the guy who's your center of the future. Like you gave up a lot to get this guy. I think that's a really good piece to have. But then a guy who knows how to facilitate. I mean, Marc Gasol wasn't like as stretched as Cat was, but I think he's a guy who had a little bit more versatility, and that's a center that Mike Conley also played with for a significant amount of time. And then something we talked about before the podcast that I thought was really interesting with Mike Conley was the fact that his contract expires at the same time Anthony Edwards' extension will kick in, which means that money is pretty much going to one ends right as the other begins, and then you just figure out your roster all over again. So does he end up becoming the long-term option on a pay cut? Maybe, depending on how it goes. Or if his contract expires, now they know what they're working with the Ant contract, and they can sign a point guard or get a point guard through trade or however they may do so accordingly. So I think it really puts them in a good place contract-wise, Gobert fit-wise, and just overall keeping this team steady as they finally hit a solid stride in this season.
Yeah, I mean, you guys hit on all the key points. The fact that he's played with Rudy is going to be valuable. As you mentioned, and I'm glad you mentioned, he's played with really good bigs for the large majority of his career, whether it be Rudy, whether it be Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph. He knows how to make his bigs have a valuable impact on the game. And like you alluded to, Tyrik, they're fully continuing the pushing of the torch to Anthony Edwards. He's shown throughout the playoffs last year, throughout the majority of this season, that he truly is going to be that guy. He is that good. And they will benefit more from having someone who can still take some pressure off of Anthony Edwards, can still create his own shot a bit, but primarily can just be the primary ball handler, but is going to be a really good playmaker and creator for this offense. Knows how to get the bigs involved, knows how to get Anthony Edwards involved and get good looks, and is just going to give you steady, consistent point guard play. And is going to be a little bit better defensively as well. Obviously, nowhere near prime defensive Mike Conley in his time in Memphis, but a little bit more consistency, a little bit more defensive impact, and is just going to allow for more easy offense for Rudy, for Cat, for Anthony Edwards, and is going to know how to get guys involved. And like you said, Gabe, he's going to be under contract through next season, so they have him for next year as well. They could also keep him for the year and then flip him alongside assets for their next point guard of the future at next year's deadline. So they have a lot of flexibility. I think he fits this roster well, and even though on paper it might look like Mike Conley for D'Angelo Russell doesn't seem great, I think for what this team needs, it's going to be a really good fit and is going to allow their true stars to have a little bit more shine and a little bit more success.
Look, man, it's like when you're weighing your options between two different girls. One might look better, but the other one might treat you better. I think Mike Conley's going to treat them a little bit better, man. I think he's the fit. And when I just think of like a young guard like Anthony Edwards, who's like, super young, like barely legal age to drink, having a vet like Mike Conley, who's been in the NBA for 15 plus seasons, that is very valuable. Like somebody like Jalen Green could value a lot for having somebody like Mike Conley next to him to learn from. A lot of young guards could really use that. Could help even accelerate Anthony Edwards' growth into being that true franchise staple front guy for the franchise. Like, I actually really like this move the more that we're talking about it. I'm seeing a lot more of the positives. When, like you said, if you just look at it like D'Lo for Russell, like or for Mike Conley, that's a swap. Like, yeah, it might not sound great, but I think they're going to realize this was a really good move and the move that they needed to make.
I think there's a lot of fun narratives that come out of this, man. Just seeing D'Angelo Russell back with the Lakers after everything that happened in his first run there, the whole like snitch thing, and then him getting flipped to get like Lonzo Ball, and now he's their point guard of the future. And now, like, fast forward a couple of years, D'Angelo Russell is back in town, and Lonzo Ball has barely played basketball in over a year. It's just really weird how things come full circle. Then you have Mike Conley back with Rudy Gobert. And then also something that I didn't think of until just now, Mike Conley kind of came in and played with Donovan Mitchell when he was kind of at the same point Anthony Edwards is sort of at now. So it's like this Timberwolves situation, add in Cat, who's no minor piece, but a star young shooting guard, and Rudy Gobert, like Mike Conley's probably the guy for the situation. And so it is kind of ironic that like the Timberwolves and the Jazz made yet another deal. I know the Lakers were involved this time. But it's like we're talking about the Lakers rebuilding the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are like rebuilding the Jazz. So it's just really interesting how things keep coming full circle. And I still don't think we've even mentioned one of the most interesting parts of this whole kind of situation. Yeah. And that's what ends up happening to Russ. Where does he go?
You want to go first, Dev?
I don't know, man. I think there's a very wide range of teams he ends up going to. Part of that is going to be decided by whether Fred VanVleet does or does not get traded in the next 12 to 16 hours, because that's going to be another team off the block that no longer wants a point guard that needs one. I think the Clippers are going to be significantly interested because they need a point guard desperately. Reggie's not been that good this year. John Wall has not been very good this year. I mean, Terrence Mann, point guard, he's not been bad for Terrence Mann quality, but ideally they need a true point guard on this roster. Miami seem to want a point guard. They might move off of Kyle Lowry before the deadline is over, so they could be a team that ends up being interested. But there's a wide range of teams that could end up showing interest here. Even a team as far down the table as the Bulls could show interest with Lonzo still out, of course. They could be looking for a little bit more guard play. Maybe even Denver, if they're moving off of Bones Highland, look to supplement their backup guard play with someone like Russ. So I think there's going to be a lot of teams making calls. I think some of the more likely options are probably the Clippers or the Heat, personally, but there's probably 5 or 6 teams at least that'll be at least trying to get Russ. And I would imagine that it's going to be one of the most coveted buyout market guys in the last couple of years, at least.
Yeah, it's going to be important for Russ to be able to accept whatever role he might get thrown into, because he might, if he goes to LA, the Clippers, he might be a starter. But if he goes to Denver, obviously he's going to be coming off the bench. And also, if he goes to the Bulls, that's not going to be a team that's going to be competing to win the championship. So he has to be comfortable with whatever. The teams that make the most sense, I guess, the Clippers, I guess, because they need guard play. But it's like, is Russ the kind of guard that they really need? I don't know. But from what we've seen this season, he's better than John Wall and Reggie Jackson, and probably better than what Terrence Mann is providing. The Heat is a wild card if they do move off of Kyle Lowry. The Bulls, yeah, because they don't have Lonzo, but what's kind of the point in that? I don't know. It's a very interesting situation. I hope he doesn't get Carmelo Anthony, like just nobody picks him up or anything like that. I hope that doesn't happen. I think he's shown enough this season to where, like, okay, he's still a solid NBA player at least. So he will get picked up, but there's, like you said, there's a long list of teams that will at least make a phone call to his agent when he gets bought out.
Him on the Nuggets would be hilarious, man. You got Jokic averaging a triple-double in the starting lineup, and then the bench unit comes in, you got another triple-double with that out there. Like, that would be some madness, man. I don't know what the fit is like there, but that would be interesting, to say the least. Now, let me throw this one out there, because I just need to see. This is half serious question, half a reaction. Does he reunite with KD? Does Brooklyn pick up the phone?
No shot.
No shot. You don't think that? I feel like Brooklyn is the organization that takes up these older players that they're hoping to get the last slice of contribution from. That's what Brooklyn does, man. They've been doing it for over a decade.
I think it's close to a 0% chance.
Yeah, I agree. As long as the front office is as smart as I'm willing to give them credit for, I think they like where their roster construction is at right now. I think the only move they potentially make, trade deadline or buyout market wise, is if they decide to move Dinwiddie and picks for someone better. I don't think they will, but I think that's the only type of potential move they might look at. But I don't think Russ and Brooklyn's a thing. I don't think it's a good fit, and I think they're just letting KD have the team at this point.
Might as well.
I will say, I don't think he's getting mellowed, just because, like, when that happened to Melo, the whole thing was like, oh, they want me to come off the bench, and it was like, he wasn't really willing to accept that lesser role, at least externally. That's what it looked like. So it was like, oh, if Carmelo wants to come in and thinks he's going to be like a third option or like a second option, I don't know about that. But then I think once some time went by and it was like, okay, Melo's willing to buy into this smaller role, then he came back. I think the fact that Russ this season was a backup point guard, and not only just a backup, it's not like the Lakers had a star point guard. Like, they were starting like Patrick Beverly or like Dennis Schroeder at point guard. So the fact that he was willing to take that lesser role just on his own accord, I think that shows like he can come in and really play whatever role for your team if you want him to.
You know who is going to pick up the phone, though? The Wizards.
Oh, of course they will.
He's going to go right back. That's the last team he was on, man.
Hey, man, they were an 8 seed.
They were an 8 seed, and that's the Wizards' goal every year, apparently. Yep. Playing their best ball of the year right now. Might as well bring in Russ. Although I would not be a fan, because taking away DeLon Wright minutes right now seems a bit questionable. But just saying, I'd rather DeLon Wright playing backup point guard than Russ right now. I'll put it that way.
Let Russ back up Josh Giddey, man. We need him to come back to Oklahoma City. I know they still love Russ, bro.
Of course they still love Russ. Love Russ, but hate KD.
After the hate he's gotten from the Lakers fan base for the last like year and a half, a lot of it warranted. He could use that OKC love.
This is the $1 million question though. Like this is the most important question out of everything that we discussed here. Who is the next Laker villain? Because it was Danny Green, then it was Kyle Kuzma, then it was Westbrook for the last year and a half. Who's next, man? Who's next?
Anthony.
My vote. Nah, they'll never turn on AD. He's just always hurt. They'll never turn on AD. Pelinka he's never scapegoated seriously. My vote is I think Malik Beasley forgets how to shoot the basketball, becomes like a 30% three-point shooter, and Laker fans hate him. That's my guess.
Yeah, he's definitely up there on my candidates. He's definitely up there.
Or Pat Bev gets more hate.
I think Pat Bev's probably my number one guy. He's probably my number one guy. But if Beasley forgets how to shoot the basketball, then it's definitely going to be Beasley. But I think he'll be okay. I think he'll get enough good looks. He'll be fine. He shot the ball pretty well this year. But, yeah, Pat Bev's going to be up there. Schroeder could be a dark horse guy for that role, too. He could have a dark horse chance. But I think everyone else is pretty safe unless, for some reason, Troy Brown just becomes a regular rotational guy still, which I really hope is not the case.
Yeah, I don't like Troy Brown minutes, man. No disrespect to him, but
he's a fine fourth or fifth forward, but if you want to be winning playoff series, probably shouldn't be a regular part of your rotation.
If he's playing 8 minutes a game, that's fine. Okay. He might hit a three, get a putback. That's it.
I do think if none of these like new additions play terribly, I don't think you can blame Pelinka like if bad things started to happen for like a scapegoat type thing, because these are objectively good moves. Yeah. And then you couldn't really blame any of them if they don't play terrible. Yeah. If this team still continues to underachieve and these players play like near expectations, I seriously do think it might be AD. Especially because videos are already coming out. Like the video came out like a day or two ago that's like, oh, AD had like no reaction when LeBron broke his scoring record. Among
Laker fans though, like the media, they gonna do what they do, but Laker fans, they always have a guy that they're just like, like I remember they turned on Avery Bradley last season. Like that was.
I think it'll become AD, man. If this doesn't like start turning it around, like this is from serious depth. This is some real solid depth. LeBron has played out of his mind since turning 38, so you can't blame star A. And the depth is like legit. So like if these guys, I don't think they're expected to show up every night. I think they're expected to show up big some nights, but other nights is going to be somebody else. That's the point of depth. So like I do think if they keep underachieving, it's going to become AD. It's going to be star 2.
That's fair. I think AD should get a little more blame than what he has over the last couple of years.
It's just like the Celtics, man. Every time anything bad happens to the Celtics, Jaylen Brown is in trade talks like 2 days later. Does that mean Jaylen Brown is bad all the time? No, he's like barely ever bad, if at all. It's just like star number 2 starts to get it because they're not going to come after star number 1. And we know the Celtics have good depth, so you can't just say the roster has no depth. So who do they go after? Star number 2.
Does every fan base just have a villain on their team? Like, is that just a thing?
I don't know. There's a guy who's just in the trade talks every single time anything bad happens. Like the Raptors lose 4 games in a row, you're hearing about OG going to half the teams in the league.
Yeah. I feel like if a team is doing well, then they're fine. But if there's ever a rough spell, then I feel like most teams probably have that. Like you say, Gabe, I mean, OG's been there for a lot of the year. Freddie, I feel like, has really been, from Raptors fans specifically, has been the scapegoat this year. I mean, I was seeing tweets the other day saying that Raptors fans would just assume flip Freddie for Spencer Dinwiddie, and Spencer Dinwiddie would be the better guard. Like, he's really fallen down the totem pole of how Raptors fans feel about him this year. And if a team's struggling, someone just becomes scapegoated. That just seems to be the nature of NBA fandom.
Yeah, the Heat got Kyle Lowry. Nets had Kyrie or Ben Simmons. I don't know if the Bucks have one internally, but like Grayson Allen is objectively a villain to the league.
Yeah, I also don't know many Bucks fans like to see it. Like they're not a popular enough team.
That's true.
Timberwolves, I feel like, was mainly D'Lo.
No, Cat. They hate Cat, bro. Every Timberwolves fan.
I guess I just haven't seen Cat play in 20 years.
They do not like Cat. I promise you. Like, I think the only player that actually objectively like is Anthony Edwards. Like, I think everybody else they're like,
Yeah, McDaniel seems to be pretty well liked too, and Slow-Mo. I think those three are all pretty well liked. Jalen Noel seems to have caused a lot of frustrations this year.
A lot.
Who's the villain in Chicago?
I don't think
is it
probably.
Vooch, Vooch.
It's got to be Vooch. Got to be Vooch.
Atlanta.
Every
Atlanta
Bull fan like, we'll trade Vooch for anything at this point.
For real.
Atlanta, John Collins.
John Collins, yeah.
Washington. I don't know who the villain in Washington is. I feel like it's getting close to just being Bradley Beal for holding their city hostage for $50 million a year in a no trade.
I want to know what Wizards fans actually think about their team. Like, I need to meet some Wizards fans and just interrogate them. Like, how do you really feel?
For real, I do not know enough Wizards fans. I need the intel on that one for sure.
Real talk.
I mean, the Nuggets are like the best team in the NBA, and their villain is like somehow Bones Highland. I don't understand how.
Bones, one of the nicest guys in the league is the villain.
The Grizzlies might be Ja Morant at this point, bro. Ever since we good in the West, and then they said somebody tweeted like, when you've lost a bunch of games because your franchise player would rather be King Von than go hoop.
And last I checked, I'm pretty sure them boys are sub 500 against Western Conference teams, man. It's a weird anomaly over there. Those guys beat the East, unless apparently the Raptors go off. But I don't know, man.
Or the Celtics come to town. Yeah,
pretty much.
I wonder if Grizzlies fans like Dillon Brooks. I just don't know if they do.
I mean, he fits that identity. I'll say that much. He fits that identity, but
he might be like one of those guys. Like, if he's on your team, you love him. If not, you just can't stand him.
Yeah, he does seem like one of those guys to me, because personally, as a guy who likes Memphis, I love Dillon Brooks, but I also like those types of players, so I might be a little bit biased on that take. He's also Canadian, so further biased. So I'll disclaim that one, but he could be another guy who we're talking about in a day's time who ends up getting moved. I don't know if he does. I don't think he does. I think he's too important to Memphis's identity, to the heart of this team, to their defensive identity. But they are going to have to pay him this summer. So he's a guy that, alongside Danny Green, could get moved for something. But
if they flip him, if they somehow flip him,
that ass for years, man.
They somehow flip him for OG, or if they could, like, do you guys think that's something that they should do?
From the Grizzlies standpoint or the Raptors standpoint?
OG for Dillon Brooks?
I mean, obviously they would have to throw in more because OG's a lot better basketball player than Dillon Brooks.
I was gonna say,
I'd take it. You give us
what they had to throw in, like Zaire.
Yeah, like Dylan Zaire, and I don't even know if a pick gets in there, but I'd probably do that. Again, I'm biased, but I would take it.
I don't know about that one.
I like Zaire a lot. I don't know. That's a tough
Zaire is good, but it's like, for as many teams want OG, like I don't know, man.
Many teams want OG though? Because I think if so, the motherfucker would have been traded a long time ago.
Here's the thing. I think a lot of teams want OG. I don't think a lot of teams want OG at the price the Raptors want him for.
Wasn't it 3 first?
They're looking for 3 firsts right now, which I think is a bit much. I think if you can get a couple of players and a couple of firsts, you're good. Like, if you can get a Dillon Brooks, a Zaire, maybe even you get LaRavia in there, and maybe you even get a first, like, you're starting to push it at that. And then, like, if you're talking about an OKC trade, if you get Dort or someone like that, you're not getting 3 firsts as well. Like, if you get a pick or 2, you're good.
This
even same with Portland. If you get like a Shaedon Sharp and then salary filler, you get a couple of firsts, you're good. Like, you don't need 3 firsts in those types of scenarios, because I don't think there's a trade for OG where it's OG, no player value, just salary filler and picks. Then maybe I could see wanting 3, because then it's like a DeJounte Murray type trade. But I think most OG trades are going to have some value in the players that are coming back. So I think 3 firsts becomes a little bit aggressive at that point.
Definitely.
I don't know about 3 firsts, but like just like Dylan Brooks, Zaire, and say they threw in like a second. It's just like Dylan Brooks is like 27, and I feel like is closer to that Pascal Fred timeline that I already think has reached its peak. And then I think they just need to rebuild and go around Scotty. So if you're getting player value back, I want a player that's like max like 24.
I mean, that's why, I said like a Zaire Williams in there too, not just Dylan Brooks. Obviously, nobody's going to take Dylan Brooks for OG straight up. But like, Zaire Williams or like a Shaedon Sharp type like that.
If they said those two in the first, then I think I would take it.
So Brooks, Zaire, and a first?
Yeah, and say we probably throw in OG and some other asset.
Yeah, probably Birch to make the salaries match or something like that.
I get why they're saying 3 first-round picks because obviously you're not going to start. We just want 1 pick for somebody else. You're going to start high. I get it, but it's funny when I see those reports. I understand that, but I'm just like, dude, like they got to know that they're trolling us right now with that kind of bargain, bro.
I don't know if they're trolling. They might just not trade any of these guys because they're not.
That would be funny if the Raptors front office is like, no, we really want 3 first-round picks. Like
that would be the Masai thing to do, man. He's so
stubborn.
Full credit to his body of work in the league, but he is sometimes to a fault always holding out for the perfect deal. He doesn't accept the trade unless he feels he is confidently winning that move. And to his credit, it usually means the trades he makes are very good. Exception to the rule being the Thaddeus Young trade at the deadline last year. That one, wasn't great. But for the most part, his trades look pretty good. Downside of that is sometimes now we might see this deadline that deadline passes and goes. And as much as I'm dreading it, there might be a real situation where no one gets moved, or the only move might be like a Chris Boucher or a Thaddeus Young trade. And that's it.
Who cares
and
about that?
As much as you don't want to make a trade that is bad for your team value-wise, there's definitely something to be said that eventually you just need to commit to making some moves and taking the best offer available, because especially when you're discussing an OG trade and probably even a Freddie trade, even though he's having a rough year this year, you're still going to get value that is going to be significant enough to make the argument that, yeah, we should probably move off this guy and get some value, especially in Freddie's case, considering he might just walk this summer if you don't.
Yeah. We even I mentioned, like D'Angelo Russell's been very up and down. I could say Freddie's been up and down too. He's had some hot moments. He's had some super cold moments. So somebody of his caliber that's a former All-Star that we know what type of player he usually is, like you said, value's going to be there, either way, which is better than losing him for nothing in the offseason or having to pay him too much money to stay. I think you made a TikTok about it, Dev. Like the Raptors, they control everything from here on out. We've seen the trades that have been made, but they control everything else. Like if there's going to be big moves tomorrow at the deadline, it's going to be because of the Toronto Raptors.
Definitely. There'll be a couple other guys that are on the move, but the biggest moves I think that'll be made are going to be determined by the Raptors. Because outside of that, I think the only as close to locks we're probably going to see is Poeltl getting moved. Seemingly Bones Highland getting moved. I mean, it'd be pretty wild at this point if they don't move him, given how they've treated his minutes over the last week. And that honestly might be about it, because I don't even feel sure that Bojan's getting moved. I don't feel sure that the Hornets are selling anyone. They should, but I don't feel confident that they will. Same with the Wizards. I don't think they're moving anyone, even though they definitely should. So I don't think there's a lot of sure moves before the deadline. There's a lot of potential moves, but I don't think there's any certainties other than a couple of moves, which, like you alluded to earlier, Tyrik, we could have a pretty busy few hours before the deadline. It also could be a ghost town, and we might see a few role players get moved in 3 or 4 trades, and that's about it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if Peyton Pritchard's going to get moved tomorrow. He's been very vocal about wanting, a bigger role and stuff. Yeah, obviously we want chaos, but I don't know. I'm kind of preparing myself to not have to make so many graphics about trades tomorrow. Like it might be a very smooth day, just some small minor moves, and that's it.
Definitely has that potential, but we've already seen Kyrie moved. We've already seen Russell Westbrook moved. And honestly, if you told me a week ago that we were going to have a trade deadline that saw the Lakers get D'Angelo Russell and saw Kyrie Irving playing alongside Luka Doncic, I couldn't really complain about that trade deadline too much. So we've already done pretty well. What we get in the next 12 to 16 hours remains to be seen before the deadline at 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. But be sure to let us know your thoughts down below on the Russell Westbrook trade and your thoughts about the Lakers and Timberwolves moving forward for the rest of the season. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more trade deadline content over the next coming days. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Okay.
Jaylen Brown has a facial fracture.
Yeah, no, we got 2 replacements for each conference. By the looks of it.
Fun.
Maybe Siakam still gets in after all. I won't rant about it yet.
He should, man. That was probably the biggest travesty, honestly. Like, I can't believe Pascal didn't get in.
Yeah.
I still think Paul George making the team was a bit of a
Paul George was wild to me, man. It's like I wasn't surprised because as we got close to the reserves being announced, I saw so many people on Twitter putting him in. I was like, yeah, okay, he's probably getting in, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
I didn't even look at Paul George's stats because I'm like, I know he's missed a lot of games. I'm not even going to consider him. When I watched him, he hasn't looked that good to me. So I'm just like, off eye test, nah. But I don't know. I think Jrue Holiday was probably the worst one for me. I was like, what the hell? Like, Jrue Holiday?
Yeah, that one really caught me off guard. Like, at least once on my list, Paul George was there. Now, he was cut pretty early, but he was there. Jrue Holiday was never on my radar. If there was a second Bucks guy who was getting in, it was Lopez. It was not Jrue Holiday. That's for sure.
He's had a good year, not an all-star year.
No,
like he wasn't even one of my top replacements, man.
No, me neither. He probably would have been 8, 9, 10 guys down.
Real talk.
And that's no disrespect to him, but there's just a lot of better guys in the East this year, in my opinion, to pick over him.
Brunson, Harden, Pascal, Trae Young.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Trae Young, man. He should
still averaging like 27 and 10 on a borderline playoff team. So some pretty wild numbers to not be in the All-Star game.
DeMar was a little wild too, but we like DeMar. So
yeah,
I guess
I'm fine with DeMar. He's
having a big season. He's having a big season too.
And he's been available, so
definitely he doesn't miss many games.
No,
so no, I guess
I can't knock that one.
I guess. Trae Young doesn't surprise me though.
No, I wasn't surprised by it either. But
even though I had him, I'm like, when I saw him miss him, like that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I knew he was going to be borderline.
Yeah, he's about to be like modern day James Harden.
I am good to go again whenever you guys are.
If I'm ready.
On to our All-Star game discussion. There was some interesting reserve selections for this year's All-Star game. A little bit more in conflict with our All-Star selections last year, which were pretty similar to our picks we made last year outside of Chris Middleton being the anomaly for the majority of the podcast. But this year we saw a bit of discrepancies. And so we'll start with that, Gabe. Who was the most surprising All-Star pick for you this year?
There's a couple for me, to say the least. all respect to DeMar, I have 4 of his jerseys. I did not expect him to make it. I don't remember who I had in that spot on my list to be exact, because DeMar's specifically his sort of like classification guard versus forward is always so strange. But the Bulls have just been quite disappointing, so I didn't expect that. Didn't really expect Drew Holiday either. I thought there were some guards that played some bigger roles with their teams, but the more people talk about it, I definitely see his argument. The one that really stuck out the most for me as like, wow, he made the team was Paul George. I know the Clippers are solid, playoff team. I can see why they would get an all-star just from like the overview. But I think with how many moving pieces, including Paul George, have been in and out on this roster and like an overall lack of consistency, I was just very surprised that they ended up giving him the nod. I mean, we were even talking on our list just about like who would be our backups. And in a lot of cases, our lists were looking a little thin. We didn't know to be exact who was going to make what spot. But I don't think any of us had Paul George in the game. So from that, I think I was the most shocked by him.
I don't even think we discussed Paul George in that episode. We might have briefly brought him up, but nah, yeah, that surprised me. Drew Holiday was the one though. That was the one. Love Drew Holiday. He's had a lot of years where he probably could have been an all-star if he was in the Eastern Conference when he was playing with the Pelicans, but this year, nah, he didn't deserve to be in there. You know, he's having a good year, not a great year. There's guys that are having better seasons too. You know, we could probably talk about some of the snubs a little later, but I think that was the one that I saw. I'm like, oh, that was surprising. DeMar was a little surprising, but he's having a really good year. Yeah, but Drew Holiday was the one for me. I'm like, nah, I can think of at least 3 guards that didn't get in that should have got in over Drew Holiday.
Yeah, Drew Holiday was definitely the most notable one to me. But I will say, as far as my extensive research has shown, he's the only player who has had 10 years between his first and second All-Star appearance.
Insanity.
May never happen again, but it just shows the longevity of how good Drew Holiday has been. Just like you say, in his time with the Pelicans, was never really quite good enough, given the talented guards in the Western Conference, to get a second nod. And as much as this year probably wasn't the year that he was most deserving of getting that second nod, I'll give him the credit of having that little stat that no one will probably ever bring up that he probably now holds the record for.
We had that conversation.
I think that there was somebody else that was maybe close.
We were talking about it being Brook Lopez.
Or something.
I thought we were talking about it being some dude from the 60s named like Jack Selvey or something.
Okay, yeah, there might have been that too, yeah.
There was somebody. I don't know if it was 10 years, though. I think it was close.
I don't think anyone else was 10, no.
I think he might have been like 7 or 8. But, yeah. Him and Brook, yeah, basically.
They both would have been 10 this year.
Yeah,
Brook would have been my Bucks pick, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I guess it's fine. Some guys are going to get bumped up, but I just don't think Drew should. This is kind of like when Mike Conley got selected a couple years ago. You know, we all love Mike Conley, but was he an all-star that year? Probably not. But
probably not. But at the end of the day, it was nice to see Conley get in because he deserved an all-star appearance at least once throughout his career. Was that the year? Probably not, but at least he got one.
And a lot of people probably don't even recognize the Drew Holiday that made the all-star game back in 2012, 2013?
2012, 13, yeah. Back with Philly.
Oh, I think it was.
That's when he had the short fro.
Yeah.
The player was Frank Selvey, who made the all-star team in 54-55, and then made it again in 61-62. So there was one year that he just didn't play at all. But if you include that, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
7 years.
6. Yeah, so 7 years later, he made the All-Star team again.
Imagine
Drew he made it 13-14. It's in 22-23. So that's
12-13.
Oh, so 10 years.
It's 10 years for Holiday. Yeah, that might never get broken. Talking about unbeatable
records.
And hey, shout out to LeBron, now the leading all-time scorer. But I'm gonna be honest. I think that record's a little bit less more unbreakable on Drew Holiday's part than that all-time scoring record, which in of itself is going to be pretty unbreakable. But
Oh,
the
Braun's
All-Star-
about to add to that like crazy.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
he
I think
is.
he's going for an
He
easy
is.
40K. And
Oh, he's getting 40K next season.
and here's the thing with LeBron too that I don't think people are like thinking about, because they're like, oh, like guys like Luka come in and like they're already like scoring a lot out the gate and are putting up these crazy stats. Like LeBron came in straight out of high school. Guys don't get to come in that young. I think unless they start letting high schoolers come in again and players are just coming into the league at least a year later than LeBron did, he just, like, that's such an advantage on retaining that. Like, it might be unbreakable for a while just based off of something like that, especially because guys are coming in later.
Yeah.
And how many guys are going to be this good in year 20 while still coming in later?
Yeah. I think that's a fun conversation. Like, who are the guys that could be a threat? I think Luka's on that short list. Anthony Edwards is super young, explosive scorer. Maybe him. He's basically been averaging 20 since his rookie year. Those are the first couple guys that come to mind. KD's a little too old.
Yeah, he's
Steph
missed too much time too.
Missed too much time.
The major injuries for KD hurt him too much. It's going to be tough because even though I think, if my memory serves me right, we are getting back to a point within a couple of years where high schoolers are likely going to be able to go into the draft again. You have to be so good right away. Like, you can't have a Giannis or a Jokic type start to your career to break that record. You have to be out of the gates ready to go. I mean, LeBron averaged 21 nearly his first season and then was 27 plus pretty much every season from there. So you need to be hot from the get-go, and you need to have the longevity, and you need to not have significant injury time. And that combination of all three things is A, very difficult to do, and B, you need some really good luck for that too, because just out of sheer volume of games, when you've played over 1,400 regular season games like LeBron has, plus playoff games, just by sheer luck, you're probably going to get a serious injury or two somewhere in there. So, I mean, the amount of things that have to go right, the amount of dedication you have to take care of your body for that to happen. I mean, it's going to be really difficult for that to happen. And yeah, I don't know if the guy that's going to break that is in the league right now. I don't think that
so either.
I don't think that exists, because I
He
think
might
the
not
only
be
guy,
born.
he might not be, because I think the only guy that has some amount of an argument is Luka, but I don't think Luka's going to have the longevity for it. I just don't think that's in Luka's game, or that he even wants the longevity for it. I mean, he's already hinted at the fact that he might just call it early and be happy to retire pretty young. So I don't think that guy's in the league yet, and we might not know who that is for a while yet, but there's no doubt about it that LeBron's going to make that very hard to beat, and it might take a very, very, very long time, possibly even beyond our lifetimes, before that gets broken.
Our grandkids might be the ones that see that get broken, like, for real. As crazy as that might sound.
Thinking about guys who are around right now, it's like Luka averaged 21 first season, 28 second season. Is already up like that quickly. The only other guy that I can think of that was like up to that high scoring totals was year 2, maybe Trey. I feel like Trey was scoring a lot of points really early. But I don't know. I don't think Trey is going to have that kind of longevity.
Small guard. Nah.
No.
Small
Yeah,
guard
so
that long.
it's like
Book?
even talking about like Anthony Edwards, it's like Anthony Edwards is averaging 24 this season in year 3. In year 3, LeBron was averaging over 31.
Yeah, that's so
It's
tough,
just
man.
it's just not
LeBron's
enough.
averaging 30 in year 20. Now, the only thing that like makes it somewhat attainable for some of these newer guys might have came in a year later, but LeBron also had to deal with the 2011 lockout. He had to deal with a couple freak injuries that kept him out for significant portions of his career on the Lakers. He had the bubble, which took away a major portion of that year. The year after that was short as well. So, especially in this Lakers tenure, mixed with like the Heat lockout, there has been some times where like LeBron's had a lot less games kind of forced upon him during this time stretch because, I mean, Father Time's not stopping while the league stops. So that's really like the only way you could make up that ground. But the fact that he was already averaging 30 by year 3,
That's tough.
Nobody's really done that. Not even Luka did that. This is Luka's first season averaging 30 and
he was like 20, like 7, 28-ish or something like that.
He's been 27, 28, so it's close. But when you're talking about over 20 years, 3 points per game makes a difference over 20 years.
Yeah. Especially because Luka misses some games too. So
LeBron's played over like probably around 1,100 games by this point. So you think 1,400 games, like 1,400 games times you have 3 points per game less for your career. That's like over 4,000 points.
Yeah, that adds up pretty quick. I think, not that I feel very confident in the pick, but I think the guy I'd feel most confident in getting the job done who's currently in the league is probably Paolo, but I don't feel that good about that pick, and maybe I'd feel differently in a couple of years. But
that's if he takes a big next season.
Picking the rookie.
Wow,
that is smart. Go ahead, take it to Vegas. Put like $10 on it. Paolo breaks a scoring record one day.
Hey, 20 as a rookie is a good start. That's a good start.
It's like you think of somebody like Tatum, but he's about to be 25.
Yeah, his first 2 years were pretty low scoring.
Yeah, he was like mid-teens first couple of years. Didn't really take that big leap until like year 4 to where he was like upper 20s. Luka, yeah, maybe. Anthony Edwards, he needs to. Anthony Edwards would have to like jump up to 30 next year and be 30, like for like the next like 4 or 5 seasons. Yeah. So it's tough. It is tough. Yeah, LeBron's crazy. I think that's what we learned from this conversation. We will probably not see that record get touched in our lifetime, which is very cool that we got to witness it.
Only person I really see that was maybe like on pace, I think KD was probably on pace until he tore his Achilles. Like I think KD would have given him a run for his money, but after the Achilles tear, misses like a whole year of basketball and has never been consistently on the court since. Before, especially like OKC KD days, and then he was still averaging, I think, at least 26, 27 on the Warriors.
Yeah, KD was basically like in OKC, he was basically 28 minimum.
Right.
With some years being like 30, 32. Like, yeah.
I think he would have given LeBron a serious run to not hold that record for as long as we thought. Because KD came in 4 years later, only 4 seasons later. So it really could have been a lot closer, I think, if KD doesn't tear his Achilles. But once again, that's why we say this record is so untouchable, because in the year of his career that KD was carrying his Achilles, I mean, LeBron and whatever the corresponding year may be, like year 10, LeBron was an Iron Man still. He was an Iron Man until like 2019.
Yeah, and it's like that even made me think of like if Kobe didn't tear his, because Kobe was still playing at a high level before he tore his Achilles. So, could he have maybe come close to Kareem's record? Like, it just shows you, like we just discussed, you got to be durable. You have to be elite for a long time, and you need a lot of luck on your side. Like Devin said, you need a lot of luck.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of things that got to go your way. Got to take care of the body, but need a lot of things to kind of bounce your way at the same time as well. We'll move back to the All-Star game discussion here. While we're on the topic of some guys getting bad luck and getting some injuries for chasing that title, we have 4 guys who are potentially going to be missing the All-Star game. Jaylen Brown, just as of tonight as we're recording this, is potentially going to be out. Zion, Steph Curry, and KD being the other 3 names. So we have 2 replacements that are going to have to be named from the East and the Western Conference. They have not been named yet at the time of recording this. By the time you guys are watching this on All-Star Weekend, they likely have been. But I'll ask you first, Gabe, who would be your picks as All-Star replacements for this year's All-Star game?
Just going off my list, I would say I'm probably putting in Siakam for sure. And then it does come really close between Trae Young and Brunson. That's real close, but I do think I would probably have to give it to Trae. I think they'd be more likely to put him in, especially because Julius Randle made the team. I think they'd probably see like number one guy on his team still putting up crazy stats. I know the coaches vote hates Trae Young. Hence, he's been like a starter or not in the All-Star game. If he didn't make it, this would be the second time this has happened. There's a chance it goes either way. I think me personally, I'll probably give that nod to Trae. So I'll say Siakam and Trae in the East. In the West, probably De'Aaron Fox and give me Ant-Man. I'll give Ant-Man the nod.
Gabe don't miss, man. I agree, 100%. I agree. Even though I had Jalen Brunson as my first guard, I think Trae Young will get in. I think he will get in, and it's tough. It kind of makes sense for Trae Young to get in because the Hawks aren't terrible. Do the Knicks deserve 2 All-Stars right now? Probably not. I think, yeah, I would give it to Trae Young too. And De'Aaron damn near should have been in already, as far as I'm concerned. Like Anthony Edwards said, we were all surprised when De'Aaron Fox didn't make it. And if there's a second guy coming up, it should be Anthony Edwards, because AD's missed a lot of time. I don't know. Kind of iffy. Do the Lakers deserve 2? I don't think so. So give me the Timberwolves getting 1 guy at least.
Yeah, I definitely can't discount Anthony Edwards getting in. He deserves to get in. Unfortunately, he would need a third injury to get in for me. I am going to go with AD as the guy alongside De'Aaron Fox. I mean, look, if Zion's getting in on 29 games played, I'd argue that AD's been just as good as or better than Zion this year. So I'm giving AD his spot and De'Aaron Fox as well. And I'm going with Siakam and Trae in the East as well. But you can argue Brunson. You can argue James Harden. There's a lot of good picks for all-star selection replacements in the Eastern Conference. There's a lot of guys that are deserving in the East. And considering neither of us or none of us had DeMar or Jrue Holiday in our all-star teams, it made for a lot of guys that could have potentially gotten in who are very much deserving of their spots.
Yeah, I think we all had really good lists. Like a combination of our list should have been how it should have went, personally.
Yeah. I feel like AD and Anthony Edwards is so close. I think it depends a lot on your criteria. Because I think just looking like at pure stats, take out games played, AD is probably the guy, especially when taking into account things like defense, of course. I think AD is probably the guy. But then you go on the fact that this isn't the starting spot, this is a reserve spot, and you're thinking of the coaches' vote. I would think the coaches would give it to the guy who would be the first all-star on the team that's currently 2 games above 500 rather than a second all-star on the team that's 5 games below 500. Getting into the minds of the coaches, I think that's where they will go. Now, is your criteria different, and that's just who you would put in versus who you think is actually going to get in? That's perfectly acceptable, and I do think there's an argument to be made there, like I said, just from pure stats and pure taking it as an individual versus in the context of the team. But I feel like the coaches, as they run teams, would be much more likely to put Anthony Edwards into the game.
I think Adam Silver picks the replacement stuff.
He picks the replacements?
I believe so, yeah.
I guess we'll see if Adam Silver likes winning.
I think he likes viewers and ticket sales.
This is
true. Either way, because you're either attracting a new fan base or more Lakers fans.
Yeah. I don't know. I really want to see Jalen Brunson get an All-Star nod, but I don't think it's happening.
No, I don't think it'll happen either, but he's definitely deserving. He's had an all-star caliber season. There's no doubt about it.
Year.
With Randall making it, yeah, I think that I feel like that sealed his fate. I don't know if the Knicks are getting to.
Talking about he was overpaid. I kept receipts. I remember who said all that in the offseason, man.
Definitely some wild Jalen Brunson takes in the offseason, but proving that he was right to get out from under Luka's wing and proving that he's an all-star caliber guard. So full credit to him, whether he gets the nod or not. The true knowers of ball will know that Jalen Brunson has had himself a great season.
Say that again, man. The true knowers of basketball, they will know. They know Jalen Brunson's had an all-star year.
100%.
There's
Definitely.
about
deserving
30
of that.
guys that have had an all-star year, though. That's the only
this
thing.
very, very packed year for all stars, man, for sure.
Definitely.
28 guys are making this game, and it should
And
only
JJ
be 24.
Like JJ Redick said, man, it's time to expand.
Definitely.
They were having
Definitely.
12-man rosters when there were 8 teams in the league, man. It's time to expand a little bit.
Definitely.
I do feel like having it be the size of an actual NBA roster and like going 15 would probably make sense. Just because it's the all-star team and an NBA team is 15 guys. So
yeah, it does make the most sense. You got more teams in the league now than decades ago when it wasn't much different. You got way more talent in the league now, which is a cause for just expansion amongst NBA franchises, but that's a whole other discussion. But I think there's definitely an argument for more guys. There's 15 All-NBA guys every year. Let there be 15 All-Stars from each conference. Call it even. And I think everyone will be happy about that. No one is going to complain about getting to see more talent and more of their team's guys getting named All-Stars and seeing them at All-Star Weekend.
right. I will get a little bit muddy, though, I think, if they go to 15 and then you still have 2 injury replacements from each side.
I feel like at that point, don't even bring guys up. If you got 15 guys, don't bring nobody else up.
I think I would have to say that as well, because I think if you're reaching at that point 30 guys plus you have 4 all-star reserves in a year like this year, plus you might be going deeper because if it's a 15-man roster, there's a good chance like a Devin Booker's in there too. And so that's just one more spot. So it's like if you're digging like 34 guys plus, I'm not sure if the 35th best player in the NBA is an all-star. Might be close to that caliber, but I don't know. At the end of the game, like it is the All-Star game, and All NBA is way more important than All-Star selections.
100%. But when people, do their all-time debate lists and stuff, they'll find any way, man. So All-Stars are important.
100%. 100%.
Apparently, being the starter is going to be remembered in the history books 20 years from now.
Andrew Wiggins, his legacy got boosted last year.
It did. Honestly, though, starter or not, real talk, Andrew Wiggins' legacy got supremely boosted by being an all-star starter on a championship team and possibly the second best player in the NBA Finals.
Not possibly. Yeah. Was.
Definitely was. Yeah, for sure.
At least on this team, he was the second best player.
Definitely.
Wiggins' legacy season. Okay.
Time to move on to our draft, I guess.
Oh, okay.
We ain't done a draft in a long time.
Well, we have not done a draft. We have not done one since the off season. That might have been our U25 players. Yeah. U25 draft. So given, of course, the nature that there's only going to be 2 real-world all-star teams, and we are 3, it is going to be smaller rosters, but we will ignore that fact. We are not advocating for smaller all-star rosters, but for the sake of this draft, we are going to have 3 teams. There will be 8 players a team across the 3 rosters. Let us know down in the comments what you think of each roster, who would win any potential matchup. And I guess I should get a randomizer out to see who gets the first overall pick.
I don't even remember who my first pick in the under 25 draft was. It Anthony Edwards? I think it was.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look.
For some reason, I feel like I had Luka. I
think I had the third pick. I think I had the third pick.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you took Luka number 1.
And man, I'm gonna have to go rewatch that video. That was a fun draft.
And via random number generator, Tyrik has pick number 1.
Let's go.
Gabe has pick number 2.
Oh.
And I will have pick number 3.
Dev goes back to back.
Dev does go back to back.
The back-to-back picks are better, personally.
Okay. Nah, I like having 2 because I think the top 2 guys are probably the top 2 guys. I want to see who you take though.
Who, me? Oh, am I on the clock now?
You are on the clock at number 1.
We may need the draft sound effect.
Come on, man. I'm taking LeBron James. I don't even have to explain it. It's an all-star game. The best drafter in all-star game history. One of the best players. to ever lace it up in the All-Star game, I'm taking LeBron, man. I'm taking LeBron James.
Okay. So So I'm taking Giannis just off the rip. I don't think I need to explain this either.
Yeah, he's a
in
terrible
the sense
drafter. That's
that,
all you need to say.
Okay, here's the thing with Giannis though, is that he goes into because I'm drafting the team, Giannis isn't. Giannis literally plays the All-Star game like it's game 7 of the NBA Finals. So he'll probably go out and just play harder than anybody else on the floor. He'll probably be trying to D up people, and then bro's probably going to drop 45 without trying.
Has he ever beat LeBron though? That's the question we gotta ask.
Well, LeBron's never lost, but that's because that's the GM. You're drafting the team, Tyrik. LeBron's.
Hey, I got him in my ear right now. I got Bron in my ear right now. He's gonna lead me in this direction for the next pick.
Springfield Akron connection. Okay.
Hey, Ohio.
And all I'm gonna say is you guys are leaving a back-to-back MVP for me at 3, and I am not gonna complain about it. That is for sure. 4 is tough. 4 is tough, but I think I'm gonna go with the hope that a little bit of defense gets played, and we're gonna take the two-way option and Jason Tatum at number 4.
I like that. Good pick. Definitely biased for me. Good pick. Can't say I did not consider him a number 1.
I also seem to have a tendency of taking Celtics players away from Tyrik in these drafts, so got to keep that up.
Respect. Gotta cross them off the list.
So you have the 2 top candidates for MVP, I think. Well, Jason Tatum might have fallen a little bit. You know, Embiid's been coming up a lot recently. A couple other guys have been making some cases. So, you know, I like the picks a lot. I personally thought Giannis and Jokic were going to be the top 2 because I still think Giannis is the best player in the world, and Jokic has been playing the best basketball this season. So I was really surprised with the number 1 pick, but I understand the All-Star game argument and LeBron being undefeated. So Tyrik swerved me at number 1, kind of like the real draft this year. I didn't expect Paolo to be number 1 until 5 minutes before the draft started, but you sold me. But let me stop procrastinating this. With my second pick, I'm taking Luka. And I think this is really ironic because I was the Curry over Luka guy for so long. But you're telling me that I have Luka leading my perimeter and my backcourt and Giannis leading my front court. I feel like it doesn't get better than that right now.
I see what direction you're going, man. I see what direction. And I'm glad that you took Luka because I was thinking you were going to take Wardell, Stephen Curry, and I was going to be stuck having to take Luka. And I didn't want Luka and LeBron, but LeBron and Stephen Curry, I like that a lot. So my next pick, Wardell, Stephen Curry. And now my next pick. This is where it gets a little interesting, man. Really interesting. Give me a second. Looking through. The injuries is what's making it tough. It really is. It really is making it tough. I think I'm gonna go with Joel Embiid. I need a big. Joel Embiid.
Ooh.
I need a big,
quote unquote non-starter is off the board.
I need a big, man. I need somebody that's gonna be able to match up with Jokic. And we've seen what he just did to Jokic, gave him the business. You know, I need somebody that's really hungry. And you know, Embiid, he wants some type of MVP, so he's gonna come out. He's gonna really battle for it. I can see it.
So I'm gonna pick a player who Curry's been taken. So I'll be taking the second player who's not actually playing in the game, I guess. I'm gonna take Kevin Durant, man. I think I've got the guard, the guy who's running the team, Luka. He's gonna facilitate the ball. Giannis, he's gonna be an excellent role man to play a pick and roll with Luka, get down low, play his hardest. Great defender if we're trying to actually win, which I know Giannis probably will. So it's the All-Star game. Let me get a guy with the bag, with the buckets. Let me get myself a guy to play that forward role because I know Giannis plays power forward most of the time with the talent around him. But he can definitely go be that big man, especially in an All-Star game environment where we're just running and gunning. Pace is super high. Teams probably aren't playing defense except for him. I think having my forward be KD, having my guard be Luka, and having Giannis in the paint, loving my big 3.
I thought about Kevin. I really did, but I needed that big to go with Jokic, so had to make the tough choice.
KD, definitely a good pick. We love ourselves a all-time great scorer in the All-Star game. I'm going to have to go with one of the up-and-coming could-be all-time great scorers out of OKC. I'm going to go with SGA.
I like
Share
that.
up my third pick.
I like
Need
that.
a little bit more guard presence, even though probably going to run some point Jokic throughout the All-Star game, but we'll get a bit more of a traditional guard alongside him in the backcourt. And
Canadian
there's
bias?
slight Canadian bias, but his performances this year have definitely more than proven that he's going to absolutely shine with Jokic alongside him, and he's also going to shine throwing lobs to Zion Williamson as his other running mate.
Good pick, man. That's a fun thing.
There is no
That is a
player
fun team.
that is undoubtedly more fun than Zion at an All-Star game.
That is a fun
Gotta
team.
go
So
for the flair, for the dramatic.
So we got Jokic, Zion, Shea. Who's your other guy?
Tatum.
That's a fun team. I like it.
Okay.
That's a fun team.
So Luka can score a lot of points, but like I said, I think my main role here is for Luka to use his great playmaking ability and really facilitate to this team. For my guard to go next to him, I'm going to have to take a guy who's had the highest point total this season. Crazy scorer.
Go ahead.
Ohio
go ahead.
guy. I'm going to take Spider, man. I think Donovan Mitchell is going to come onto this team. I think he's going to fit great with the other guys there. I think he's a great run-and-gun guy, can have a couple flashy dunks. And, I mean, he definitely deserves his spot this season. While he hasn't been as crazy recently, now that everybody's back in the rotation, he was going nuclear for a certain portion of this season. And his highs this year have been higher than most other guys here. I was really thinking of JB here, but I'm thinking what puts JB above Donovan Mitchell on anybody's list is going to be defense, and this is the All-Star game.
Fair. All right. I got back-to-back here. A little bit of a small backcourt going, but I need somebody that is going to get up on that rim, man. Try and dunk on people. He has one of the best highlight reels when it comes to made and missed dunks. Need a little bit of toughness, that grit and grind, energy. Give me John Morant, him and Steph Curry in the backcourt. A little bit of a beef there, but I think the respect factor is there.
Team chemistry minus something, man. I don't know.
Nah, man. The respect is there, though. The respect is there. I know it is. And I can't let my other Celtic guy go to waste. Might be a little bit of a reach here, but I need some forward play, man. I think LeBron can play the 4. I don't want to have to start a Sabonis or a Julius Randle at my 4. So I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown. JB, round out my 5.
He had to get the one Celtic. Couldn't steal both of them from him.
Had to get one. I was hoping Tatum slipped to like the 3rd round, but obviously not.
Yeah, nah.
Ooh, so it's back. It's back on me. I have 2 guards, 2 forwards. Not a true center, but I don't think we're at the point in the draft where another center would be being taken. I don't think we're really at like a Sabonis, Bam Adebayo part of the draft yet. So I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with and call me crazy. I think I'm gonna go Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
And just to kind of back that up, I know while his season in the Blazers success might not be what some people might think it should have been or could have been, I've seen Damian Lillard cook up in all-star games where him and Steph Curry are just trying to have a half-court shootout, man. Like I've seen him do some crazy things, and in a game like this, I'm not ruling out him coming up with something special because I still think he can pop off at any given time. I think he's on a different team than Curry, which is going to give him just that extra bit of boost he needs. Even with John, the other team, all those top Western Conference guards are, besides Luka, are really they're on the opposition. So Dame is going to take that personally. He's not going to run from the grind, and he's going to play his hardest.
I like that pick. I thought about taking Dame right there to pair with Steph too, but had to go a different direction. Good pick.
Definitely a good pick. Rounds out the guard play alongside Luka and Donovan Mitchell. I'm going to have to go with the guard myself. This is where I'm going to take Kyrie Irving. Need that flashy handles to show off up to Zion and get some feeds over to SGA, get a little bit more guard play alongside him. We're going to have Jokic, Kyrie, and SGA all throwing the lobs up to Zion. So we got all the options there to have the little fun theatrics with Zion. And for my next pick, I got to go with the hometown guy, the first-time All-Star, who you know is going to want to showcase it in Utah. I got to take Lauri Markkanen here because you know he's going to want to show out in Utah.
You just said both of my guys that I was going to pick next. Good picks. Good picks. I like that. Good picks.
It's hard, man. I'm thinking, like, hasn't been great this season, but, like, love me some PG. Like, could use a big man like Bam, but I don't know. I still don't know, man. Like, center, defensive guy in the All-Star game. I'm not sure if that's my vibe. I'm stuck between two guys, and I think the other guy is going to be here a little bit later. So I think my next pick is going to be Tyrese Halliburton.
Okay.
Y'all just taking all my guys, man.
And I knew that was going to be your next guy, just looking at the options left. But Tyrese Halliburton, a guy who can be the other facilitator, because, you know, I think Dame's a point guard, but I want Dame to shoot the ball. I want Dame to score points. I want Donovan Mitchell to score points. I want KD to score points. And Giannis is kind of our only real big guy right now, so he's just going to be down low in the paint, kind of patrolling that area. We need that secondary playmaker to not only play by Luka, but when Luka's off the floor, Tyrese is going to be that guy that steps in.
Good pick. Good pick. This where it gets a little murky, man. Okay, I am going to go with. I'm gonna go with Bam as my first guy. Just need another big, you know. Bam. You know, I think he can be fun. I think he'll be fun in the All-Star game too. And next guy, I'm gonna go with Paul George, man. Paul George, he's had explosions in the All-Star game. You know, one of the smoothest players in the league, so he's gonna get some nice buckets off our bench.
Definitely some good picks. Bam and Embiid patrolling the paint the entire game. It's going to be fun to deal with.
Hey,
Yeah,
no dunks, man. No dunks. Those guys, they're going to challenge them. No free dunks.
Hey, man. See, y'all having the bigs like that is cool. I do think the All-Star game gets a little three heavy, a little jumper heavy, and nobody's playing that heavy a defense. But now that we've got to this point in the draft, I'm thinking, looking at my roster, I do need one guy like that at least. Because if it gets down to the fourth quarter, down to the nitty-gritty where everybody actually starts trying at the last second, I knew he would slide this far. I'm taking Jaren Jackson. Because, listen, he might originally be the guy who you think, oh, this guy's going to be like the last pick. In a pinch, it's like a game of 21 at the rec center, man. Once somebody gets to 19, you are playing the hardest defense of your life. I'm just running and gunning, playing small ball. Giannis is my biggest guy on the floor for most of the game. Once it gets time where you have to D up, now my interior, all of a sudden, is Giannis and Jaren. I'll take that, man. Jaren protecting the paint, Giannis as the help defender. I'm cool with that. I'm not going to say the rest of the court is great at defense, but Luka's not small. KD has had his moments where he can be solid, and I think Tyrese can probably be okay.
Yeah. It's a good pick. That was going to be my pick here if you didn't take him. So now you're just forcing me to go screw defense. We are just going to send the offensive end of the floor. We're going to take Domantas Sabonis with this pick. We are going to have all of the dribble handoff threes that you can absolutely imagine in the All-Star game. And we're going to make sure that the guys are popping them off of those dribble handoffs. And from there, we're going to go with Julius Randle. And we're going to make sure that even though we might not have the defensive bigs, this is going to be a big team with Lauri Sabonis and Julius Randle coming off the bench. So even though that rim protection might not be there, we're going to make sure that there ain't no physicality that is being outdone on this team.
Yeah. Y'all are not losing the rebound battle, that's for sure. That is for sure. Good picks. Good picks.
The person losing the rebound battle is probably me. But that's okay.
It is definitely you.
Because it's the All-Star game and everybody's shooting 70% plus from the field anyways. So like who cares about the rebound battle?
I'm coaching. We're taking it serious from the jump.
100%.
I'm coaching my team.
100%.
No, you're not. But I will say, Tyrik, if you are trying to play great defense, that's wonderful because you've just been this is the last pick. So I believe you've been gifted with Drew Holiday, the best defensive guard in the whole thing, because me personally, the player that made me fall in love with the game, the player who I have 4 different jerseys of, the player who I've been following for so long, had me rooting for the fucking Spurs for a couple years. Like, I got to take DeMar DeRozan. I think I would be doing myself a disservice. In terms of winning a basketball game right now as the guy who's the last pick, as the 8th guy on this roster, Drew Holiday is probably the better option, but I'm having fun. It's my favorite player of all time. Really made me fall in love with the Raptors, who I'll still root for to this day. So I can't not take DeMar DeRozan.
We all had a homer pick, man. I took Brown. Dev had to take Shea, the fellow Canadian. You got to take DeMar. It's fair. But I'm glad because I needed Drew Holiday, man, because I'm looking at my guards defensively. Curry's okay. Ja, not really great. We got wing defense, Braun, JB, PG. We got big defense. We needed that guard just in case, man. Like, we need to stop on somebody down the stretch. Drew Holiday's going to come in there. He's going to get it done for us.
See, looking at this, I think, Tyrik, you have the best basketball team. I do not know if I don't know if you have the best team to win an All-Star game.
I think I do. To win any type of basketball game.
But I do think you have the best team if we were playing like my league and each of us built a different roster and just had an 8-man rotation. I think your team's probably winning the most games. I like your backcourt a lot. I think, LeBron and another like 2-way forward. There's a lot of good stuff there. I just don't know, man. Besides LeBron, Curry, and a couple flashy dunks from Ja, I don't know if y'all are bodying the All-Star game like that.
Hey, you just named 3 guys right there. You know Embiid's going to come out and get his buckets. And JB's a dog. That 5 right there is tough. And PG ain't no sus. PG's dropped 40 before in All-Star games.
PG be shooting it for sure.
For sure. And Drew, he don't know if he's ever going to be back here, so he might make up for those last 10 years of not making it.
No doubt.
Dev's top 5 at least is Team Flash. I think having Jokic with the flashy passes.
Jokic is going to get everyone the open looks.
Shea, silky smooth finisher. Kyrie, probably the best handles of all time. Jason Tatum with some side steps and some turnaround jumpers. All like a lot of ISO scores highlighted by Zion Williamson, just taking lobs, controlling the paint. Like that's Team Flashy. You got the hometown guy, so regardless of what he does, that's sure to probably draw a pop. Sabonis, he's like a mini Jokic in the terms of he'll probably hit some solid passes too within. Julius Randle, he's probably pulling up in people's mouths, and he's probably making a fair amount of those. So it's like, I think Devin has Team Flashy. I think in terms of All-Star game moments, I think they're putting up a really good highlight reel.
Can you read off your team, Gabe?
Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, Tyrese Halliburton, Jaren Jackson, and DeMar DeRozan.
Okay. I like it.
No bigs, but I like it.
Hey, man. Jaren and Giannis are going to carry us to the promised land. I'm buying all in on we're running small ball. We're shooting the ball. And if we actually have to try and play defense at the end, we probably have 2 top 5 defenders in the league on the court.
If Jaren's not in foul trouble.
It's the All-Star game. They ain't calling no types of fouls.
Hey, Jaren going to be going for them blocks, man.
I'm a foul coach, man. First 3 possessions, Embiid, post them up. If Jaren's on, you post them up.
Ain't calling no fouls in the All-Star game. Embiid's probably spending the All-Star game on the perimeter because it's Joel Embiid. Like he's gonna go out there and try to be Steph Curry because he's a troll, bro. He's gonna go out there and do the most flashy shit you've ever seen. It's not gonna be Embiid on the block bullying.
And he can pull it off. That's
guarantee that.
He can pull it off.
But I know if we get down to a 2-3 point game at the end, I'm gonna have 2 top 5 defenders in the world on the court, and then I'm gonna come back down on the other end and have Luka Doncic and Kevin Durant, 2 of the most dangerous men in the clutch time bucket needing scenario. I love my team for a late game situation.
I have LeBron and Steph Curry. That's all I need to say. Like in situation,
hey,
I have LeBron and Steph Curry.
So I don't know, man. LeBron maybe Curry when you need like a buzzer beater with like 5 seconds left. He hasn't done that since like 2016, bro.
They've never lost on the team together, undefeated. Can't believe y'all let me get Curry.
Cannot believe it.
Well, all that convincing to get Gabe to believe that Luka's finally better than Steph finally helped you out, I guess.
It did, man. Hey, I was playing a long game with that one, man. I knew we was going to do an all-star draft down the line. I'm like, let me convince Gabe with this better.
I don't know, man. I think Luka is better right now, but we'll see who's still playing in June because clearly people still think the Warriors got a shot.
I don't know, Kyrie just won tonight too.
I've watched Kyrie bust Steph Curry's ass in the NBA Finals, so who's to say that he can't do it in a nice second round series and knock Curry out again? I don't know.
The way the Western Conference is, it's possible. Who knows?
Who knows?
High key though, listen, I would not be mad at all if you got 24 All-Stars and they split it up into 4 teams of 6 that got drafted, and it was like a starting tournament. 5 and a 6-man and did a little mini tournament. Listen, the more I'm thinking like we're splitting into 3, if they split into just little groups of 6, man, I think that would make it real interesting. I think
that's what they did with the Rising Stars, and it was kind of fun last year. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a good setup for sure. Gives guys more playing time too, a little bit more flash. Definitely not against it.
If the league decides to do that in the next few years, they must have been watching this episode. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey man, yeah, because you'll have like a team with like Lowry and Julius Randle just come out and bust everybody's ass and somehow like beat LeBron and Curry in the finals. And it's like, hey yo,
Lowry and Randle, that's a crazy duo.
Hey, that duo gonna be tearing it up on my bench. Gonna be going crazy.
One thing, like from watching the Jazz, as soon as Lowry touches that ball, he's shooting it every time. Like he does not give a damn about passing that ball, and I respect it.
Him and Cam Thomas, man, they're not passing that rock.
Nah, there's definitely a Mount Rushmore for guys that have never seen a shot that they don't like. And probably worse than both of them, Michael Porter Jr. He might be the worst one out of all 3.
yeah, he's really bad for it. He's really bad for it.
Them 3 and Dylan Brooks may be the Mount Rushmore.
Dylan Brooks is up there for sure.
Dylan Brooks.
He understands. He understands his role sometimes, though. Like he's like, okay.
Yeah, and then sometimes he just looks at the rim and he's like, "Nah, I'm bringing this to the cup and I'm getting it up one way or another. Might be airballing the layup, but it's getting up."
If Klay Thompson didn't make 12 threes in a game like 2 days ago, I'm putting him on the list.
Oh, he's on the list. Klay definitely is. There's not a shot that Klay doesn't like, but he's just one of the best shooters ever. So he kind of gets a pass.
Yeah.
Kind of gets a pass.
For sure. For whatever reason, Dion Waiters instantly came to mind when we started talking about that too.
Philly cheese, man. Philly cheese.
Josh Smith.
Yep.
Josh Smith.
It was hilarious watching the Nets play the Suns yesterday, bro. It just Cam Thomas just literally every time down the court. He is shooting the basketball.
Who else is going to shoot it? Royce O'Neal.
Funny. Ain't shit
Royce
funny.
O'Neal was just running around. Only got me 3 points.
Hey, you better bet Cam Thomas is over every time Kevin Durant misses a game for the rest of the year. That's all I'm going to say.
You know what's funny? I only bet him for like 10 the first night and then 15 and then 20. He hit all of them, but I'm like, I didn't expect the dude to go for 40 in 3 straight games.
Especially against the Suns. Like
The Suns.
one of the best defenses in the league. That's wicked.
Yeah, that was wild, man.
I forget who they played the game before. I think it was a pretty decent team. I think. I don't remember, but I know against the Wizards. Clippers, Kawhi, Paul George, and then they were down like 20 against the Wizards. Came back, and the Wizards have been hot lately. Came back and won. Edmund Sumner had a big game that game too. He had like 31.
He's been playing well too the last few games. Not getting the love because Cam Thomas has been doing his thing, but he's been pretty good too. I'll give him his credit that. Probably the best couple of game stretch of his career. I'm very biased because I've always been big Edmund Sumner fan because I love liking random role players, but
I was a fan of him when he went to Xavier. He was just a smooth college player, and he got hurt. Like I think he tore his ACL like once in college, and then tore it again in the league.
Yeah, it was Achilles injury last year that kept him out.
Oh, okay.
Man, I didn't know he went to Xavier, man. I guess shout out to the Cincinnati rep. Gotta respect it at that point. Now you've made a fan out of me very quickly.
I think it's Xavier. It might be Butler.
It is.
Okay. I always get those two like confused because they're same colors, everything.
I could never get those two confused, man. The crosstown shootout, that's like the biggest basketball game in Cincinnati since there's no NBA team there.
Xavier has one of the nicest gyms that I've ever been in.
Cintas is great. It's Cintas Center.
Nice
That's a great arena. I was just there for a graduation and like, man, it's smooth in there for real.
They do a lot of tournament games there for high school basketball. Very nice center. UD's is nice. UD's is a little too big though, but it's nice. The shot is way too big for what Ohio State be pulling in. Tennis wise,
for the basketball product they're putting on the court this year,
they need to be playing at what's it called? Where they play volleyball games at?
Covelli.
Yeah,
they should be playing at Covelli, man.
That would probably be a nice like environment for like a game or two. Like just get it sold out, see how that goes. I don't know. I went to this D3 game because my friend he coaches this team up near Cleveland, and they came down to play. I think it was Heidelberg, but they came down to Columbus. The gym was so small and it was like a dome type place, but it was so loud in there. I'm like, damn, it wasn't even that many people. Like, there was a decent amount of people, but it was loud as hell.
Some of those small, like more old school type gyms, they carry sound crazy because like all these modern arenas, it's like, bigger, looks better, looks more crisp, but it's like the sound just has more room to get out and escape, especially a lot of places, modern architecture has all that natural light. It's like going through glass and just hard walls that are straight just reflecting everything. Like stuff, some of those old gyms are just different.
Yeah, that's how it is for us here in our hockey rinks and in the major junior leagues. Prince Albert's got their team, and like Calgary's got a team, Vancouver's got a team, Saskatoon's got a team. There's some smaller cities, but a lot of bigger cities with a lot of bigger arenas. But Prince Albert's arena is like 2,500, 2,600 seats, and it's this small, compact arena, right? So, I mean, you get a full stadium in there for playoff times, and opposing teams hate playing in there, absolutely hate it, as opposed to if you go and play in Saskatoon or you go and play in Calgary, like, you're not getting a full stadium out for a major junior game when you're playing in a 16,000, 18,000 seat stadium, and it's just quiet as can be in there. Might be 2-3 times more people, but it's just so quiet because it's so big, right? So there's definitely something to those small, compact gyms and arenas that just sounds so loud, and it just goes crazy when you get a big moment or a big game like that when it's just packed in there.
Facts. That's why, like, even though I hate Duke, I would love to go to a game there because it just seems like it's a small gym, but the fans are crazy. It's so loud in there. Like, I would just love to experience that environment once.
Definitely.
Mo just wants to see them lose. He just wants to see them lose to North Carolina.
Of course. Of course.
I think you would want to go there and only hear it quiet is what I think personally.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, or just let it be loud for a lot of the game and then just have it drop dead silent with 30 seconds left with a big dagger 3.
That's the best feeling.
And then you're good. Then you're good.
That's the best feeling.
That's why I always like playing on the road more when I was playing ball than at home.
100%.
Like, if I'm playing in a gym full of, especially if you're playing against that school's team and you go in and you just take over in the fourth, oh man, I'll take that any day over having a home crowd behind me. Any day.
Especially like road games, especially like high school, like freshman basketball. Like we'd be the first team that plays. So like road games, we'd go ahead, play, whatever, win or lose. Then we'd just be chilling like the rest, during junior varsity and then varsity. Like we'd just be chilling. Then the bus ride home was always fun. Like road games were always superior to me because I don't know. Home games were just kind of like, yeah, we don't have to travel today. That's really it.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. For real. Seems I forgot to bring it up earlier, too. We should briefly mention the Josh Hart trade. Josh Hart is now a member of the New York Knicks. And considering Portland looked like they wanted to commit to winning this year, moving off of one of their key wings for a first-round pick it just doesn't make sense to me. But Portland seemed to do a pretty good job of that, of not really making sense to me in the direction they're taking. But I'll get your opinions first, Gabe. What are Portland doing?
Wasn't Cam Thomas in the trade too? I mean, not Cam Thomas.
Can't imagine.
Cam Reddish.
Thomas, they're cooking.
Cam Reddish did go back to the Trailblazers alongside a lottery-protected first, and if that does not convey this year, then that becomes 4 future seconds. So decent draft capital and Cam Reddish back to Portland, but for a team that is apparently trying to win, not really sure what the thought process here.
Yeah, if you're trying to build around Dame and like compete, I got nothing. I have nothing. You traded the player who was putting up solid stats, helping you win some games, and people still want to see this upside in Cam Reddish, and I hope he proves me wrong because I hope everybody's successful. But this man has been on 2 separate teams, and on both of these teams, he could not find consistent rotation minutes. And so it's like the fact that New York went out and got him. I know Coach T is pretty notorious for having his ways with young players and everything, but still, regardless, 2 separate teams, they made a trade for him, and then he ended up not being in the rotation. So this is probably his last chance, I would think. If he doesn't end up finding a way to make the rotation for the Portland, it's probably slow. What I will say is they got fleeced, but the side who fleeced them, I really like this for the Knicks. Just looking at their roster, yeah, they've been running a solid lineup, but I think guys that are specifically built to be wings, they definitely could have used some depth there. So I really like that they got him. Added some rebounding as well, a guy that'll do a lot of that because, a guy like Julius Randle will put up some rebounding numbers at the 4, but he's also a guy who's on the perimeter a lot. So having another guy on the court that can really get in and get on the boards is quite nice. I think the only thing that they'd want to see from him kind of improve from where he was with Portland is his three-point percentage. The Knicks are a team that aren't a great three-point shooting team, and so having a guy as a wing that you presume is going to get pretty solid minutes, you're probably going to want him to get closer to where he was last year at 37% than where he is this year at 30%. He's going to want to find a middle ground and probably at least be shooting 34, close to 35 for them if they want to really maximize the impact he can have, because we know he can have that impact and be a better player while still bringing down those rebounds and doing a little bit of 3-and-D and rebounding. And I think that's the role this team could use as they push more into trying to get out of the play-in, sitting at a 7 seed right now.
Yeah, I'll pick up off with the Knicks point, and I'll agree with the Blazers afterwards. But for the Knicks, really good move. They're Obi Toppin's been in and out the lineup, but even when he's been playing, it's been kind of up and down as his career has been production-wise. So adding some forward depth with they've been lacking, especially just on the wing, I think is key because a lot of their closing lineups is Brunson, Quickly, and Quentin Grimes on the court. Quentin Grimes is a good defender. A little bit on the smaller side. He's 6'3", 6'4". He's not a big wing player. He's one of those, more of a shooting guard type wing. So I'm thinking of a closing lineup of having Josh Hart in there, who was a tank, really good defender. If he can improve that 3-point shot, that'll help out a lot. But just his defensive rebounding, his ability to finish in the paint, I think will be a very good addition to this team. And you didn't give up that much. I mean, a first-round pick, sure. This is already a Knicks roster that has a lot of, pieces that they are kind of invested in anyway. So does adding another pick to that really hurt you that much giving it up? I don't think so. And, Cam Reddish obviously wasn't playing, and you gave up a second-round pick and Kevin Knox to get him. So you're just cutting your losses and getting somebody in Josh Hart to where, you got him for the rest of the season, has a player option. If he opts in or opts out, maybe you can bring him back on another deal. Who knows? But definitely a good floor-raising type of move for them this season. Now for the Blazers, I think we can all collectively say, what are they doing? Not really too sure. I want to have faith in Cam Reddish. I really do. But like Gabe said, if this situation doesn't work out, it might be more of a Cam Reddish problem than Tibbs not giving him minutes or him not getting on the floor consistently in Atlanta. It might be a Cam Reddish problem. But I think one thing that the Blazers and Chauncey Billups has kind of shown us, they give young guys a chance. They give young guys a chance. Like, they didn't give up on Nas Little last year. He played really good last season, has been good for them this season. Same thing with Anthony Simons. They gave Keon Johnson some run early on this season and last season after the trade. Trying to think, it's like Trent Watford gets some time for them. They give young guys opportunity to show what they can do. So maybe Cam Reddish can come in and show what he can do. But it seems kind of redundant with the kind of players that they have. You got Dame, obviously, who's your guy. Anthony Simons is a shot maker, shot taker. Same thing with Jeremy Grant. Are the shots going to be there for Cam? I don't know. And then you got Shaedon Sharpe off the bench, who they're obviously invested in. It's a little bit murky. It seems like he's going to another situation that is just like the one he got out of and just like the one he just got out of last season. So a little weird. Hopefully he can figure it out because he has a lot of talent, but this might be one of his last opportunities if he gets another one.
Yeah, it's definitely looking that way. And like you say, I don't know how much more opportunity he's going to get in Portland. It's looking like the best case scenario for him is that he gets his rights renounced this summer. He ends up becoming an unrestricted free agent, and maybe the Pistons pick him up, maybe the Hornets pick him up, maybe the Spurs pick him up, somewhere where he might get a little bit more opportunity and a little bit more leeway to have some ups and downs and still stay in the rotation. But other than that, it's definitely not looking great at this point in time because that opportunity probably isn't there in Portland. Now, why Portland make this move? The only reason it makes sense to me is if this first ends up getting packaged in another trade before the deadline. I don't know if that move exists, but maybe they package it in an OG offer, and maybe that's the thought process here because Josh Hart wasn't going to be of value to the Raptors, but a first will, or maybe they have another move up their sleeves. If it's not to be used in another pick and they're just holding on to it to have the draft pick, I mean, this is the direction I want them to go, but that's if they're moving Dame tomorrow, which they're not. So they're just a team that thinks they can win, is not winning, and now is making moves not to win. So I'm not sure what Portland's up to.
Wouldn't that be crazy if we all just woke up tomorrow morning and get a Shams notification that the Blazers are working on moving Damian Lillard? That would be insane.
Man, that would be wild, but I would be really happy for Portland because that's the direction they need to go in. But, man, that would be a wild twist to NBA trade deadline morning, that's for sure. Man, the Kyrie trade request was one thing. A Dame trade would be a whole other level of a surprise.
Imagine it's just like Damian Lillard to Brooklyn for Cam Thomas and a bunch of role players. Built around Anthony Simons and Cam Thomas.
There's no shot.
We
have a live. I have to interrupt. We have a live trade. The Toronto Raptors are not sitting on nothing. The Toronto Raptors have acquired or reacquired, I could say, Jakob Poetl for Keem Birch, a protected 2024 first-round pick, and 2 future seconds. So there is no Gary Trent, as was rumored, heading to Toronto in a Jakob Poetl trade. And then instead of tanking or making some moves that would indicate the Raptors are pushing towards the lottery this year, they don't move off of any of their players, and instead they go and get their center and Jakob Poetl, which does indicate another move because otherwise, Lord knows who's coming off the bench. But Jakob Poetl is back in Toronto.
I think OG's gone, man.
That's interesting. That's real interesting because What is it with this trade deadline with players going back to teams they've already been with? Like D'Angelo Russell is back in a Lakers jersey. Not the same team, but Mike Conley's reunited with Rudy Gobert. Spencer Dinwiddie's back in Brooklyn. And now this, like Jakob Poeltl is back here. It's so many players are just like reuniting with past teams so far this trade deadline. Like they're just trying to go back to where they were in the past. I'll have to sit on that one because I do think that makes them a better team, but it probably makes them a better team for about 12 hours until something else comes. So I will have to sit on that.
It's nice to get a big and to not give up Gary Trent. So if you use him in a trade, or if you trade OG, or I think those are the only two guys that could possibly get moved. I don't see Freddie getting moved probably now if you're making that kind of trade. Again, Jakob, who is on an expiring deal, I don't see Freddie being a guy that's getting moved. Interesting. I think that's something that we'll definitely have to revisit next time we record an episode and really talk about that. That's interesting though. Okay, I like it.
Yeah, it's definitely good to finally have a big. It's going to be refreshing to not get dominated on the defensive glass or get dominated by size by some of the best centers in the league anymore. So that's definitely going to be nice to see, but definitely nice to see that Gary Trent wasn't involved in this deal either, because let me tell you, I saw the notification pop up on my phone. I saw Jakob Poeltl involved, and I was kind of worried Gary was going to be in this, to be honest, but not bad value to give up. But like you guys alluded to, there's definitely got to be another move now for Toronto tomorrow, whether it's OG, whether it's Gary. I don't even count out Freddie getting moved just because I don't think Nick Nurse or Masai are against just running point Scotty Barnes and Siakam, which I don't really think is a great idea, but maybe you get a backup. Maybe you actually get a true backup point guard back in a deal tomorrow as well, which is then
Richard.
Yeah, maybe it makes a little bit more sense then, but
I don't know. They might just ride it out, man. They really might just go out and say, "Hey, we're just gonna start Fred, Gary."
Who comes off the bench then, though, right? Because Gary or OG is coming off the bench. Yeah. There's no way those guys are coming off the bench, right? Someone has to be moved.
Gary's walking in the offseason, and OG is probably going to be upset because he wants more opportunity now. He's going to be coming off the bench. So
So why are you?
Doesn't make sense.
Someone has to be moved.
You're not bringing Scotty off the bench, and Pascal. Come on.
There has to be a Raptors trade tomorrow, which honestly could put them in a spot where if there isn't enough interest, they get screwed out of some value because now teams know they have to move someone. So in an ideal situation, this trade would have been made later on, but obviously they wanted to secure Poeltl. He could have went elsewhere, so you can't really wait on that. But they are in a situation now where one of Freddie, OG, or Gary Trent has to get moved by the deadline tomorrow. They just have to.
I think this indicator more than anything to me screams retool versus rebuild. I don't
100%.
think they're going to go towards what I've been saying of a rebuild around Scotty. I think this means you probably move. I don't know what you're getting back, whether it's more draft picks or whether it's more talent-based. If it's talent-based, you think they got to move off like two of these guys. Because if you trade OG for just one talent, who's coming off the bench? It's the same question. If you're trying to resolve this issue, you would have to think you're moving off of two guys. Because it's not like you're going towards a rebuild, because unless the talent you trade for is like a six-man level player, but is that what you're getting out of OG?
I think as we talked earlier, like in a hypothetical OG trade, it would probably be something like a Dillon Brooks, Zaire Williams type deal, like two role players for the player that OG is, more than a role. I don't know how to explain it, but you know what I'm saying, like two lower level
starter,
role players,
high value starter.
Yeah,
so
or even
like
just two guys that can come off the bench, because then in that scenario, if you get a guy or two who can come off of the bench in a hypothetical OG trade, you're now securing a Achua spot on the bench. So you're going to have a couple of guys at least that you can work with off the bench, especially if Boucher doesn't go anywhere either. If you can have Boucher, Achua, and you get another guy or two in a potential trade tomorrow, it's not ideal. It's not the best bench in the league, that's for sure, but it's serviceable, especially if they get a guard as one of those bench guys.
I think this does secure a playoff push, though, more than them trying to kind of take it easy this season and acquire some talent through the draft. It seems like they're trying to take it into their own hands. So while probably not the big move, this is definitely a major indicator, I think, unless they completely swerve us all tomorrow.
Yeah, like you say, it's not going to be the biggest move for the Raptors most likely, but it shows their direction. They're definitely not tanking. That's very clear. And like you say, it looks like a true retool. It doesn't look like there's going to be a scenario where Siakam's going to be getting shopped this summer. It doesn't look like you're going to be just completely handing over the keys to Scottie immediately. It looks like, and unsurprisingly, given how much Ujiri loves to win, it looks like he is staying committed to let's try and build the most competitive team we can today. And given the fact that you still have a top 20, borderline top 15 guy in the league in Siakam on your roster, might not be pushing for a title right now, but they have the assets to retool. They have the upside in Scottie to continue to get a little bit better. So that's the option they play out with this Jakob Poetl trade.
Like writing is on the wall, man. Writing is on the wall.
Trying to distract us from grilling Portland, man.
Saved
That's
by
crazy.
the
That's
Woj
crazy.
tweet.
So y'all got winning tomorrow, Woj or Shams? I got Shams in 6.
Yeah, Shams
in 5.
Shams do be getting the speed, but I will say this: Woj's tweets usually do have a little bit more accuracy and detail when they come out. Shams do be hitting initially with the report. That's like with the tweet today, talking about the Russell Westbrook trade. I was like, yeah, great. I know it now, but I don't know details, so I'm just going to sit around and wait out, see what actually happens.
Can't wait to see Westbrook and Laurie make a playoff push a la Chris Paul on OKC.
Westbrook is getting bought out.
Still probably going to be better than Portland, man.
To be
the
fair,
only benefit of the doubt I'm giving Portland is the fact that last trade deadline, they made that Norman Powell and Robert Covington to the Clippers move. They traded CJ McCollum, and we're like, what the hell are they doing? Damian Lillard's on this roster, and like what is this? Like what is going on right now? Then over the offseason, the moves they make, we're like, okay, maybe this can turn into something. Now, I don't think we can wait for another offseason. I think you gotta kind of speed this up tomorrow. But I think last time the Trailblazers made 2 rounds of trades. It kind of ended up looking pretty okay on the back end. Did that translate to success? Not exactly, but did it at least – we thought they had a pretty solid offseason, I think, was the general consensus among us.
Yeah, they did have a solid offseason. I didn't like their trade deadline, but they had a good offseason. I will give them that.
Either.
I will give them that.
Speaking
of Russ, though, call me crazy. I don't think he'll go there. But now that Toronto looks like they want to win, I wouldn't even be surprised to see Toronto involved. I don't think he'll go to Toronto, but I think they'll definitely make a call.
Why not? Backup PG? Yeah.
Need a guard, so I definitely can see it.
Why not?
Why not say Westbrook?
Quick note on the Spurs front. They 13 first-round picks through 2029.
Jesus.
They are doing their own mini OKC rebuild. Not to mention the fact they already have Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Blake Wesley, Malachi Branham, Jeremy Sohan, Trey Jones. They got themselves a solid rebuild going on over there.
I'm so serious. The whole draft is going to be Utah, the Spurs, and the Thunder in like 3 years. Like everybody's 2025 first-round pick belongs to those 3 teams. Like one of them has like – they all got to have around 15 on average.
Yeah, I think the Spurs got the 13. OKC probably still got – I don't know, probably about 17 or so through 2029. Utah have about their own plus an additional 7. So, yeah, they're going to have about 13 or 14 of their own as well, I believe. I think they got 3 this year. So, yeah, it's going to be a pretty heavy rebuilding team first rounds over the next couple of years.
I'm here for it.
Me too.
Hey, man, I didn't predict Lowry's breakout, but I do remember saying before this season, I was like, Jazz might be pretty solid early on. They got some talent, but then all those assets are going to get their value up. Utah is going to cash in for some pick equity. Then they're going to fall off at the end, man. I think I had them finishing at the 12 seed. So if they finish at the 12 seed this year with a late fall off because they traded a bunch of people at the trade deadline, I'm gonna make some mental hurdles to convince myself that I took a W and predicted it to the T.
Gabe loves his preseason predictions.
He does, and they might not be done yet, so they might tank even further. They still got Jordan Clarkson, who very possibly gets moved tomorrow. We still have Rudy Gay, who could still get moved. Even Taylor Horton-Tucker, I don't think is completely safe because he is on a player option next year. As young as he is, he could be an unrestricted free agent next year. So if they don't think they want him back, then they could move him too. So they could still have a lot more talent headed out the door in the next 12 hours that lead to just a further Utah tank.
So that's why Jordan Clarkson decided to play like dog shit tonight and only score 8 points. I needed 15 from him. Fucking give me 8 points. Come on, bro. Come on, bro.
Timberwolves defense getting it done.
I guess so. Jalen Noel's all defensive first team, apparently.
To be fair, the Timberwolves needed that. After what just
Needed
happened,
it. They've been playing really good.
Yeah, they needed to bounce
really
back.
good, but then, bro, the Nuggets literally bent them over and
They did. They did. You know, I decided to delete that game from my memory.
That could be a momentum killer, is what that could be. Like, they were starting to play it good, and then all of a sudden that game crushes their morale. And you know what Cat said a long time ago? He said, "Oh, we lose like 1 or 2 games, and that turns into like 20." Do I think it would get to 20?
I think they're
Probably not,
past that.
But
I think they're past those stages.
Do I think that could have been like a setback in their team morale? Yeah. So the fact that they bounced back with a big win,
that's why they made the trade, man, to get the nicest guy in the league in Mike Conley. He gonna boost that morale back up.
Man, I don't know about that. I don't know if he's Steven Adams.
If Luka Garza starts dropping 25, their morale going to be up. I'll say that much.
Bro, one thing about him, his per 36 has to be insane.
Has to be. Luka Garza.
Former National Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Go take a look.
G League legend. His
per 36, he is averaging 25.4 points per game on 9.8 rebounds. His efficiency is a bit over 50% from the field, 30% from deep, and he is averaging a bit over 7.5 free throw attempts.
I know for damn sure he's giving up 37 points a game on defense, but offensively, yeah, he'd be killing.
Yeah, he'd be killing.
Maybe they could trade Nas Reed, man.
That's an Iowa legend, right?
Iowa legend.
I am interrupting again with an even bigger trade. Apparently, nighttime is the time. Woj won. Woj won. KD has been traded.
Oh shit!
No, you're smoking.
No,
bro.
KD has been traded
trolling.
to the Phoenix Suns. We do not have the details yet in terms
of
the package.
Bro, you're trolling.
But KD,
you're lying.
After talking tonight about it being KD's team, he is going to the Phoenix Suns. He's now a member of the Phoenix Suns, the team that wanted him arguably the most this summer. He's now going there.
Shit.
And instantly the Suns probably become favorites in the West.
Excuse my language, but goddamn.
Yeah, that is wild. There's no time for sleeping out here, man.
Oh, God.
There is no time for sleeping.
Devin, I swear, when you upload this to YouTube, I need you to cut this part and make this its own video called KD traded live reaction, and this might have to be the first video that goes
100%.
Up.
This is going up.
Listen,
the moment that this is edited and is ready to go, it is going live. Save, and then the total one is following.
Respectfully,
I have the
they're
package.
Going to the finals.
The Nets are trading Kevin Durant to the Phoenix Suns for a package that includes Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, 4 first-round picks, and additional draft compensation, which will likely be additional seconds.
They're going to the finals. Chris Paul, Devin. I know Chris Paul ain't been great, but Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin fucking Durant, and And DeAndre Ayton? I know we were low on DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul, but you got Devin Booker. That boy nice in the playoffs. Kevin Durant, that man nice in the play. Like, listen, the whole thing with Kevin Durant in Brooklyn has been that the people around him not healthy for nothing. If I know anything, Devin Booker just missed some time. Dog, Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton should be playing in the playoffs. That's that's a squad. And listen, I know DeAndre Ayton was kind of feeling some kind of way about the situation. Bro, I don't give a fuck who you are. You are playing with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and the West is wide open. This team is the favorite. Respectfully, you're telling me this team on Mikal Bridges is a great player. Cam Johnson is breaking out. Excellent role player. Bro, we said we feel kind of the same about 1 through 9, and you just added Kevin Durant. You added an MVP level player when we had Devin Booker in MVP talks before we went out. So you got two of them together, and I think we've talked about KD for years as a guy who fits in with like whatever team. He can just slide in and do his thing because he's Kevin Durant. And Monty Williams is a good coach. I think he can make it work, integrate it. Dog, especially if they play the buyout market, and kind of shore up some of the edges.
No doubt. Jay Crowder is also going to the Nets as part of the package. So I don't want to just mention the Suns here, just because I think the Nets are actually interested in here too. I don't know if this team rebuilds or if they're just in a retool scenario, because they have a lot of value now. You just got Dorian Finney-Smith. You acquired Royce O'Neal this offseason. You now have acquired Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and Jay Crowder. You still have Cam Thomas. You still have Ben Simmons. You still have Spencer Dinwiddie, Seth Curry, Joe Harris. They're either going to have the best assets in terms of rebuild since OKC, or they might just try and hang around and retool, because they have a really, really good defense now. Like, they can field Claxton, Bridges, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Royce O'Neal. They have potentially the most insane rotation of wing defenders in the league right now. That's wicked.
They also got they got a couple shooters on that team, bro. Like, you can't tell me now that this team is where it's at. I'm not even saying even if they try to stick around, but I'm saying if I'm a team who wants a shooter, I'm picking up the phone and calling them about Curry and Harris now. Yep. Right now.
Yeah. I think those are the types of guys they could look to move on, because they're not winning anytime soon. So a guy like Joe Harris could be moved. Spencer Dinwiddie could be moved again before the deadline's up. Seth Curry could be moved again. And they still have young pieces and they can just hold on to. You keep Cam Thomas, you keep Daron Sharp, you keep Edmund Sumner. You have now Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. You could even move off of one of those wings if you want, and Royce O'Neal or Dorian Finney-Smith. Maybe Jay Crowder gets flipped again before the deadline. So, man, they're in a great spot. They already had, obviously they didn't have a lot of their own first-round picks because they've moved them all, but they had acquired 3 additional first-round picks, and now they just got another 4. So for a team that had given up a lot of draft equity over the last few years to make moves, they now have 7 first-round picks over the next 5 to 6 years. So they're in a really good spot to either retool, rebuild, make some more moves to get some more assets. It's a sad ending to the KD and Kyrie era, but they've done well. And I mean, Devin Booker as a number 2 option is outrageous. That's outrageous.
Look,
That's like who was literally doing a carry job.
I was about to say it sucks losing your 2 best wing players in Cam and Mikal, but you getting Kevin fucking Durant back to go with Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. Oh man, is this like a star duo, a big 3 or a big 4? Because I genuinely don't. DeAndre Ayton just came off his best game of the year, 35 and 15, like yesterday.
literally yet like fucking yesterday. This is a guy who just gave you 35. With, I mean, Booker just came back, but with Booker and Paul on the court, it's not like there was nobody else out there. Chris Paul, his stats ain't been the same, but like the fact that Chris Paul is facilitating to two of probably the best 5-6 minimum scorers in the league, that's a point guard's dream.
Yeah.
And you got DeAndre Ayton in the paint, who, while not as aggressive as we might think, he can still be a Roman for Chris fucking Paul.
Yeah.
That's
wicked. And to speak on that lack of wing depth now too for Phoenix, TJ Warren is officially going back to the Suns as part of that as well. So they will get a little bit more wing production outside of KD. And Torrey Craig has been good. So KD, TJ Warren, Torrey Craig, that's fine. And if they need a little bit more play, Ish Wainwright has been solid enough that if he needs to be the fourth guy, that's more than fine. So
damn.
Okay. That's a wicked team, man.
Okay, James. James Jones,
thing,
man. I see you, boy. I see you.
We went from off-season turmoil. Listen, there's a chance this blows up in their face because we know sometimes KD can get the injury bug, be a little bit in and out. Bro,
hey,
fuck it. They're going to the finals.
Even if it does blow up in their face, I salute them for saying Chris Paul's on his last wheels. Devin Booker's playing the best basketball of his career. Let's try and maximize this shit while we still have a chance. And even if Chris Paul is gone in the offseason, you still got probably some good years of Kevin Durant left, and you got Devin Booker's prime to go. And obviously they still have some type of hope in DeAndre Ayton. So you still got a nice little core there that you can retool, even if this season doesn't pan out for them. But damn, they got KD, bro. They got KD. That's crazy.
I was rooting for the Clippers heavy. I need the Clippers to go on a little losing streak because right now Phoenix is 5, Dallas is 6. I need all my being. Now listen, just to understand the magnitude of this, just to put this into perspective, Phoenix got embarrassed by Dallas in a Game 7 last year. Was not even close. Luka put their franchise to where we thought they would never recover. Went into off-season turmoil, was talking about Chris Paul never be the same player. Now you tell me Kevin Durant and Kyrie had all this stuff go on the court, off the court. Were never able to play together. Kyrie requests out. And you're telling me these two teams that already have this crazy beef from last season now have two, one's a superstar, one's borderline, that are coming to each of these teams to help them compete for a title. If they're on opposite sides of the bracket, this could be a Western Conference Finals from a narrative perspective and from a basketball perspective for the ages.
Yeah.
Is this like the prayer answered for us to have a team that we can look at definitively and be like, that's the team to beat? I know we haven't even seen them lace it up, but
I mean,
on
paper,
is one of the best
I think
trade
it has
deadlines
to be.
ever.
It has to be. And like you say, I think most of us were expecting a pretty quiet trade deadline this year, especially comparative to last year. But man, this has already got an argument to be better than last year.
Look,
we've already seen a starting caliber center get moved. We've already seen 2 all-star starters get moved. And we're going to see another all-star caliber guy get moved out of Toronto tomorrow, most likely, or a little bit less so if Gary is the one who gets moved. But, I mean, this is a wicked deadline. And like you say about the Suns being the team to beat, we haven't seen them yet. But the fact that they were able to get KD without giving up too much depth, I mean, obviously you lose quality in McHale and Cam Johnson, but you traded away 3 wings, only 2 of which were actually playing basketball for you this year. You get KD and you get TJ Warren, you get 2 wings in replacement. They ain't losing any depth. You got Kevin Durant. I mean, I don't know how this team can't be automatically the favorite to get out of the Western Conference.
Team is insane, bro. They were already 8-2 in their last 10. Just got Devin Booker back and added Kevin Durant.
Crazy.
One of the best scorers of all time. Hey, I love the NBA, man. I love the NBA, bro.
I was literally just saying, oh, this might be a pretty solid roster to build around KD, but I don't think solo stars are going to win a ring. I guess we'll never know.
Devin just dropped a video
we'll
earlier today talking about the Nets are still okay with Kevin Durant.
For real.
Bro.
And they
Hey,
were,
listen.
but hey, apparently they just want all
Here's-
defense now. So.
Here's what I got to say. Demetrius Ja Morant, are you still good in the West?
Yo,
Oh man.
hey,
That OG trade might want to happen tomorrow, man.
might want to happen tomorrow.
I will say, as a Raptors fan, having the KD trade out of the way is going to make everyone a hell of a lot more interested in OG because that's just out of the way. So selfishly, as a Raptors fan, independent of KD being in Phoenix is good news. It's very good news.
So you telling me the Celtics could have got KD just by throwing in some picks and some wings? We got guys.
Bro, Tyrik, that
I don't think
posted
Grant
that
Williams and
Squidward
Sam
with
Hauser
the
and Peyton
Celtics.
Pritchard getting the job done.
The Squidward Celtic pointing
Celtic.
picture is literally that's one of my favorite things I've seen recently.
I'm about to spam it tomorrow. Every time I see rumors, spamming that picture.
So a quick update to that first round picks discussion we were having earlier. It'll now be Utah, OKC, the third team I'm blanking on, and now the Nets that'll control the drafts for the next few years. Spurs being the other team.
What?
Hey, shout out
Crazy.
to Brooklyn though. Shout out to Brooklyn.
This is like reverse Brooklyning, dude. Brooklyn has always been
is.
like, we cashing
is.
in
Good to see.
everything, we get in the aging stars, and we just gonna hold on and compete. Brooklyn just said, I guess one of them requested a trade, and Kevin Durant probably, there were conversations in the front office about the future of the franchise. So maybe it was an unofficial trade with Crest. I'm sure there was like dialogue there. But regardless, they cashed in at 2 stars who's, let's be real, I don't think their value is going to get higher than it is now. So I think they moved on at the right time and really, really put themselves in a solid position. They saw a guy just drop 40 in 3 straight games. Will it be a Linsanity run? We don't know, but there's hope. There is role players. There is so much they can sell. It's almost like they just did what Utah just did. But Utah, like Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are probably a tier below KD and Kyrie. But they took their 2 stars and just traded that for just a shit ton of guys and picks. And now there's somebody, we didn't think Lowry was going to be the guy to pop off. We were like, oh, now Colin Sexton's going to go crazy. And people are thinking, oh, Cam Thomas season. But like, maybe Mikal Bridges becomes an all-star next year. Because this is a spot.
He had a nice jump this year, for real.
A spot in the East is now open. He could. Brooklyn, there's a lot of guys there. They might win some games. I mean, I don't know how many people here survived the offseason, but like maybe Mikal Bridges is here. He makes a jump, and then he's like their Lowry pretty much, and it becomes a really similar situation.
Yeah, Mikal's definitely got a big opportunity for a jump. I think Cam Johnson's got a really good opportunity for a big jump as well. I think he's still got a lot more untapped potential he can get. I mean, he's only been taking about 9-10 shots a night in Phoenix. That's probably about to jump up to 14-15 in Brooklyn. So that's going to be a fun development to see. But like you say, they just have so many options. They have so much flexibility now from draft capital to the player movement, whether they want to retool, whether they want to fully tank. But like you alluded to, Tyrik, kudos to Brooklyn. They've committed to a rebuild, which was probably the best decision long-term for them. And it's just not a typical decision to see from this organization. So it's nice to see them commit to that once Kyrie left. And as you alluded to earlier, Gabe, with being unsure whether KD wanted out or not, the reports do indicate that KD wanted to move specifically to the Suns. And so the Brooklyn front office did ensure that happened. And the picks that are heading the other way are officially unprotected first in 2023, 25, 27, and 29. And there's also a pick swap in there as well.
If you win a championship, fuck them picks.
100%.
Respectfully, same thing with
100%.
the same thing people are saying about the Lakers right now. AD trade, you gave up so much, and while they look
Won a
good now,
ring.
it was turmoil for so long. They got a title out of it. That's the end goal.
Won a
The
ring.
Raptors, they're kind of stuck in just being mid for like the past while, but they made the moves they
Got a
made. They
ring.
got Kawhi, and it was a rental, and he left for nothing, but they got a ring. It's like if these trades get you a ring, that's a win. Like if Phoenix wins a ring this year, and then Kevin Durant in like a year and a half moves on, Chris Paul retires, DeAndre Ayton still ends up unhappy, and then all of a sudden Devin Booker's like, yeah, nah, I can't go through another rebuild with this franchise. And all of a sudden you're nowhere with no picks in 2024. Who cares?
But then you got Devin Booker. But then you got Devin Booker to trade and get some picks back in. So they'll be fine. They'll be all right.
But
and this is a franchise that don't even draft good anyways. They're not the best drafted franchise anyway. So forget them picks. You got Kevin Durant, who's still at this time probably a top 5, 6 player in the world. Whoever wants to slice it up. I know Dev might have him a little lower, but that's neither here nor there. Got Kevin Durant. You got Kevin Durant, man, and that's crazy. Last trade deadline, we saw basically 4 All-Stars get moved, and now we've seen 2 superstars get moved. This trade deadline alone, that's insane, bro.
Your star player was like bordering MVP talks with how hard he was carrying the franchise to a 1 seed. And you just brought in probably at a minimum a top 6 player on earth. That like you can't make that up. The last big point I kind of want to mention with this is the fact that you just said Kevin Durant made the indication that he wanted to go to Phoenix and Brooklyn ensured that. I do think that's interesting because Kyrie indicated his preferred destination was the Lakers, and they ensured that didn't happen.
I think one of the major differences, other than the kind of rift that Kyrie had with Josai and everything, Kevin Durant has a long-term deal. Kyrie was an unrestricted free agent this summer. I think that's a little bit of a difference. When that's the case, if I'm a front office person, I'm trading you wherever. I don't care. I'm trading you wherever I feel like I'm getting the best value. KD kind of makes sense, long-term guy. And that's the team that, like, Phoenix wanted Kevin Durant in the summertime. The Nets asking price was just way too high. And look what happens when you play the long game sometimes, man. Sometimes you get blessed, and they got blessed here.
Yeah, KD is back home in the West, and Kyrie's in the West for the first time, man. It's really interesting. It feels weird still to think about like Kyrie in a Dallas Mavericks jersey. Something about it is just like
he looked natural tonight, man, and he had the number 2 back on him. Like, this is the Kyrie I know. It's the Kyrie I love.
24 points in his debut, man. Looks like Luka didn't play the game, but
he's still out.
I mean, that's going to be a big night. Whenever they're on together, if they can flex that game into national TV, it should 1,000% be there. But
also, Shams will not let us sleep, man. That's crazy. Just breaking trades.
March 5th.
No, man. I
keep your eyes on
sleeping.
March 5th.
There's just no shot.
March 5th, the Suns go into Dallas. I think that's
already a low-key beef too.
That's what I said earlier with like what happened at the end of last year, and now you have these 2-star players that were teammates. It like folded, and now that could be a playoff series, and it's like that could really be special.
Last question I really have: do you guys think other teams will start kind of, I don't want to say panicking, but feel like the sense of urgency to make moves in the Western Conference?
Definitely.
Like
Denver's making the bones move. I don't know what they did.
Golden State.
They're making the bones move.
Golden State
just like forces their hand.
Yeah, Golden State definitely should be looking to make a move. I don't think there's a world now where the Grizzlies don't make a move before the deadline. Whether that's OG or something smaller remains to be seen, but there's definitely a Danny Green and something package that's getting entertained heavily tomorrow. The Clippers are going to be heavily looking to make a move. Wouldn't be shocked to see the Pels look to make a move either. They just have so many assets. So I think there's definitely a lot of teams in the West now that are making sure that they have a lot of reason to stay competitive. And a lot of that's going to mean really gunning for guys at the deadline tomorrow.
Yeah, I think there's a world where like Sacramento and the Pelicans maybe stay a little bit more put. Just Pelicans are still a little bit younger, and they might just say, okay, like this KD thing might be super short term, and then like we'll be up next. If in Sacramento, this is like their first year kind of like breaking out, so I don't expect them to really do anything crazy. The Clippers is an interesting one, but I think their biggest deal right now might be like the Russ thing. So like that might be kind of their direction, getting a point guard like that. But it's like discount the Kings, the other top 4 or 5. The Mavericks and Suns just bought in heavy. So you're thinking, yeah, if you're the Grizzlies and the Nuggets, you're doing what you can to be at your best because you're 1 and 2 and 4 and 5 just they're ready to go, for lack of a better term. Like the Mavericks were in the Western Conference Finals last year and subbed out Dorian Finney-Smith and Jalen Brunson for Christian Wood and Kyrie Irving, maybe more beyond that. And then we just went on about what the Suns just did. So it's like, yeah, the Grizzlies, they gotta get somebody. I don't know who it's gonna be. Really solid team. I think their play style is a little bit different to where I don't think that's cashing in for a star. But who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe they make Zaire and Dylan Brooks for OG is their move.
If that happens, I need to be a GM. Come on now. I'll do that.
OG is one of the bigger names left at this point, and that's like them getting a nice wing to I mean, he's not gonna stop Kevin Durant, but in that series, is that the worst matchup that I'd want?
I mean, ain't nobody really stopping KD except for what the Celtics did last year, but that's the best you can do on Kevin Durant. Just make it super, super difficult for him. Like, if he's going to get 35, it's going to be on 35 shots. That's how you got to guard Kevin Durant.
Yeah. And, like, the Grizzlies got guys, but it's like if they cashed in like that for an OG, it's like obviously the guys are going to get their shots off, but, like, I don't feel terrible with, like, I mean, Ja and Chris Paul, like, I don't think Chris Paul's production is going to be insane. So it's like, you know, whatever. But then, like, I don't feel terrible with Desmond Bane on Booker, OG on Durant, like, Jaren down low somewhere messing around with Ayton. I mean, Adams is going to be on the court too, so a little bit of discrepancy there. But, like,
I think matchups are going to be so important in the Western Conference this year, man. Like,
but, like, I really don't hate those matchups. If they cashed in for an OG, then even though we talked about the Suns having some depth, like, the Grizzlies would still have better depth in that case than them. So that would make it, like, if they cashed in for an OG, I think I'm still probably picking the Suns, but I think that makes it a real interesting series.
Yeah, a lot of times when it comes to series like that too, it's like playoffs are so important. Like, who has the guys that down the stretch can get you good shots time after time. The Suns essentially have two guys that can get you good shots by themselves, and Chris Paul can get good shots for others in the playoffs too. So that's going to be tough to beat for anybody just on paper if healthy, because it's rare to get two guys that can do that. But then you got the added value of Chris Paul, who can take over games down the stretch in the postseason. Makes it tough. I just hope defensively they're still good, because defensively, as long as Mikal Bridges was on the court, they were still really good. I hope that doesn't fall off too much without him. I don't think it will, but maybe having the offensive firepower, even if you fall off a little bit, it'll make up for it.
Yeah, they might not be like a sure lock top 5 defense anymore, but they're probably still a top 10 defense. I mean, DA's solid on that end. Chris Paul's still good on that end. Booker's solid on that end. KD's a good defender. I don't think they'll be that elite of the elite anymore, but they'll still be a good defensive team, I would imagine.
With good coaching, too. I don't want to let that go by the wayside.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Second half of the season is really ramping up. Like, it was like we were watching a whole lot of parody, a whole lot of, like, we really have no idea. Now, I still am not sure. But, like, I want to see – oh, wait a second. The standings just updated, and now the Mavericks and the Suns are 4 and 5. I think
that
the
probably
Clippers
won't
just
last
lost.
too long.
Still, let that hold. Please let that hold.
Next episode, we might just have to
need it.
rank like, I don't know, like our contenders, like put them in like tiers.
Yeah.
Because there's still so much to be answered for. So much, man. Like even like out east, like Boston still looks like the best team, but I don't
Milwaukee
think
been playing really good.
Milwaukee's
Philly
been
playing good.
Philly's been good for the most
Man.
part. I think Philly has a Boston Celtics problem. I don't think that they would be able to beat the Celtics in the playoff series.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think so.
I
This
think they
might
could probably
really be the greatest trade
compete
deadline
with
of all
Milwaukee,
time,
but
man.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get to a point in a year or two where we are just going to be so disappointed by the trade deadline because we've been so spoiled now this year and last year.
really the year
It's
before
wicked.
too was pretty when the Magic had that fire sale.
Yeah,
I think
that was
there's
a
some
pretty
other
good year
like
too.
decent sized moves. Yeah,
It's just like Tyrese and Sabonis was a big deal, but KD and Kyrie at the
I
trade.
mean James Harden got moved last year too
Yeah,
for Ben Simmons, which was big at the time.
That-
But you can't top two superstars getting moved.
And then like, you know, he's not what he used to be, but like the way the Russ narrative has been such a big thing in LA is like
Anytime the Lakers make a move, it's big news.
but like that trade is like it reminds me on a different level because the Russ thing was so big, but like, and we know the team ended up being like terrible, but when the Cavs completely rebuilt the roster at the 2018 trade deadline, it's like the Lakers, like that team is so different than what it was like before. I don't know. It's I don't think it's as drastic, but it kind of gave me similar vibes where it's like that wasn't like a superstar trade, but it's like that was a big deal because this team kind of changed so much.
Definitely.
what a crazy night, man.
I am genuinely like, thank the Lord for Tyrik, because if we would have recorded this last night instead of saving this for like when we did,
Great timing. Just as
Terrible.
we
We
were about
would've
to
had
get to the
terrible
end of the
episodes.
discussions.
Hey, shout out to
Jakob
my
Poetl trade.
migraines for us having to be up early today.
For real, man.
Got
For
it.
real.
we were literally talking about what the Trailblazers, and then you said breaking even bigger trade, and I'm like, like
I'm thinking, OG must
bigger
have
trade.
traded.
I'm like bigger trade than Jakob Poetl. I'm like, would Toronto just make their next move right away? And you're like, Kevin Durant, and I'm like, what?
This man thought I was trolling him.
I dead ass. I was like, he's joking.
I was looking for the Woj notification until I had to go find it. Wow, shit. It's real.
I cannot.
Crazy,
Katie
man.
for real just uploaded a
Had to
video.
scramble to
3
get a little
minutes ago.
graphic made.
Yeah.
My goodness. Jeez.
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Well,
The fact that they got
and see my
TJ is
facial
cool
hair.
though. Underrated getting TJ out of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Considering they had to give up their 2 starting wings, that's a good piece to get back.
If we're a team that has lacked shot creation outside of Devin Booker, pretty good. Pretty good.
Kyrie Irving reacts to the Kevin Durant trade. Quote, I'm just glad he got out of there. Mark Jackson's burner. Everyone needs to apologize to James Harden with all due respect. Damn,
Facts.
Ben Simmons really went from playing with Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler to playing with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving
To playing with Cam Thomas and Nick
to
Claxton.
playing with Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, and Mikal Bridges.
Ben Simmons might be on the move, man.
It might be better for him. It might be
Ben
better.
Simmons could be on the move. Who knows?
He could be. I don't know. Here's the thing is
He has no trade value.
he doesn't, but honestly, at this point in time, even though it's crazy because we're talking about a guy who's been as good as Ben Simmons, there's value in them just getting off of his salary for expirings and just having the flexibility of not having his contract for the next 2 years. There is legitimate value in that because they have the pieces and they have the market, as we've seen before, that they can get a free agent They have the complementary pieces that a star might want to sign to. So there's a legitimate argument that they need to get cap space immediately to go and get that. Now, will that happen? Probably not, because they have to move a lot of guys for that to happen, but they have that flexibility. So there's the options, but they'd have to move Simmons and Dinwiddie and Joe Harris. They'd have to move a lot of guys.
I don't want Joe Harris, but if Seth Curry's available, he can come to Boston.
Dude, I think this team is probably still a 500 team. I think like Brooklyn has 32 wins right now. They just got to win 9 games.
You know what I was going to say earlier? When I've been watching them the last few games, they remind me of that Nets team that D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie were on. But the playoffs, they had that same energy. So,
you
know, I like it.
I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them in the play-in, no doubt. I mean, they still got a 6-7 game gap to still be in the play-in anyway, so they got a pretty big buffer. But even though the offense might struggle a bit, this is a good defensive team. Like, borderline could be a top 5 defense now. I was talking about top 10 defense a couple hours ago with KD, but you bring in Mikal Bridges now, that's a borderline top 5 defense.
Before the season, we was like, are they even top 15 defensively?
Yeah.
They still play Orlando twice. They still play the Rockets twice. And they play the Hornets. Like, that's 5 games against bottom feeders. Get at least like 4 type upsets, maybe not even upsets. To some, like, they can pull out wins against Utah, against Atlanta. They play the Pistons too. So that's like 6 against bottom feeders. Well, you can't win 3 games besides that. Like, I think this team goes 500. And right now, 500 in the East is the 8 seed. They'd be better than Atlanta is right now.
Yeah, there's probably even a world where they avoid the play-in. I don't know if that happens, but
it's possible.
I think it's a possibility.
Maybe Cam Thomas keeps this up.
I mean, that's the thing, man. If Cam Thomas keeps balling, if Spencer Dinwiddie plays some good ball, you got Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson to take a step, and you have a good defense. I mean, it's not a great team, but like that's solid. That's a solid team if they're going to be as good as defensively as they should be.
That sounds like a team I'm going to enjoy watching if they keep every piece that they have right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. It's not going to be the flashy or talked about part of this trade, but that definitely could be a very fun team to watch for the rest of the season.
I like it.
If they went 500 for the rest of the season, they'd be a 46-win team. And I just don't see the Knicks getting above like 45. So if Brooklyn can finish this season 500, they avoid the play-in to me.
Yeah,
possible, man.
Probably.
It's crazy. 46 wins is like a lot. It's
like
not that much in the East this year.
Because I don't know if the Knicks or the Hawks are going to go on some crazy run. I think the Heat are kind of just where they're at. Only team that could go on a run is like if Toronto like somehow buys into winning, which they might because they just got Poeltl, then they might jump. Because right now the Raptors won 3 in a row, have some momentum, only 4 games below 500. And now they have a good defensive big man. Like with the talent they have, I could see the Raptors because they went on a second half run last year. I'm pretty sure that's how they ended up as a 5 seed. Like they didn't look good for a lot of the season, from what I remember.
Yeah. Humor me this for a second. What do we think? Completely hypothetical. If Ben Simmons goes to the Spurs for, say, a package of Doug McDermott, Josh Richardson, Zach Collins, and like a pick.
I don't hate it, man. I don't hate it. Go see the shot doctor, man, in San Antonio. I don't hate it.
He can fill in those Keita Bates-Diop minutes. Respected Buckeye legend, but
I mean they got Sohan too.
Yeah.
I don't hate it though. Take a flyer. Why not? If somebody can fix Ben Simmons, it would be the Spurs.
And for a team that's got a bunch of firsts too, I don't mind it.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all, man. Why not?
And that's an easy way for the Nets to get off the money too. Doug's under contract next year, but Richardson's an expiring. Zach Collins is non-guaranteed. Unlikely, but maybe.
The indication I'm getting from Brooklyn is that it seems like they just kind of want to send everybody to the West. So I think, yeah, if Ben Simmons went anywhere, I wouldn't rule the Spurs out.
Definitely possible. Man, what a wild trade deadline.
Can't believe
All
Kevin
this and the Warriors have managed talk of them finally getting off of that trio of young guys, any of them. They've been able to duck it for even longer, man.
It was really about to be midnight. I was like, okay, I'm about to wrap it up. And then Jakob Poetl gets traded. And then KD gets traded.
I already didn't plan on sleeping because you season 4 comes out. So I'm like, now I'm just wide awake.
Yeah, there ain't no way I'm sleeping tonight now. I am awake until the trade deadline and beyond now tomorrow.
Pretty much.
With all due respect, if we would have gotten off of this call and KD got traded, we're getting back on the call.
Oh,
I'm glad we were still recording though, because that is like the most authentic reaction that you could have ever drew up.
Yeah, 100%.
Unplanned
100%.
live reaction.
That's a perfect moment. Perfect.
That's
moment.
probably the best live moment we've likely ever had.
I mean, look, we're probably never gonna have a better live moment. Like, what are the odds of being live recording whilst one of the few superstars in the league gets moved? I mean, unless you are live right before deadline or right when free agency starts, I mean, that's just outrageous.
Insane, bro. I
love it. Month 13 of the podcast, man.
I love it, man.
Perfect. I'm about to be cranking out way too many videos for tomorrow, but it is good stuff.
Hey, us having 3 hours of content and splitting it up into like several videos, if you split up all like the individual segments into stuff and then just have us like the extra just trade deadline talk and all-star talk, like that in and of itself is still like a whole podcast episode.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
We got to post the KD reaction as a short because I feel like that's going to do stupid numbers.
Yeah, definitely.
Even bigger trade. Famous last words.
Short on top of the actual video. Like, yeah.
No doubt. Yeah.
Words said before, shocking event.
Yeah, literally. We got a KD video and a KD short. We probably got the same for Poetl. We got Kyrie. We got Russ. We got Josh Hart. We got the All-Star draft. And this episode's got everything.
I wish I had the editing chops to like do the like us talking about KD and Brooklyn. Oh, they might be solid and then have like some like you know, like the SpongeBob like 5 minute like transition. Put that up and then like even bigger trade, KD to the Suns and us. That'd be wild.
You know, I think I could do that. I think I could. I just don't know if I'll have time in the morning to chop that up.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, my next 6 hours are probably going to be in the lab editing that stuff. So I'll throw something together because that's the only thing that's going to be on my mind. So
if you need help, just shoot me something because I might not be asleep anytime soon.
Yeah, once I get the full parts edited out, I'll send it over to you.
Man, and listen, y'all. The last episode wasn't like a huge blow up, but the last episode, 70 views, man. That's solid. That's decent. Like we're building momentum. The floor just keeps raising. We're like Russell Westbrook as a podcast right now. But quite insane, man. Quite insane stuff. This could do well, and I think like the All-Star videos did pretty solid. So like if we for real get a couple like decent like regular YouTube video length videos out of it shit might pop off low key.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
You're ready to wrap up though. I do need to hop in the shower at least.
Yeah, I think
I think so. I just realized we're live on YouTube right now. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I unintentionally, I guess, made it public today, but not a bad day to do so. So appreciate everyone who's tuned in.
Hey man, it says we got 2 viewers right now live.
I didn't even see that. That's crazy.
To the 2, I didn't even know we were live, but to the 2 people watching live, what up? Appreciate y'all.
Hey, we got some comments too. That's funny.
On the live?
We are terrible podcasters.
That is unfortunate what happens when your host unintentionally goes public when he goes live, but
maybe we should do this more often. Who knows?
Might have to
we
be
got
the
5 people give some
going forward.
Hey man.
Sure.
Somebody said that story wound up pretty crazy. I wonder which one they were talking about. Any thoughts on Poeltl? Yeah, we talked about it. Ben Simmons said it was going to be scary. Who the hell is going to take on Ben Simmons' contract? Bulls going to get Westbrook.
That's all conversations for next week, man.
Appreciate the homies tuning in, man.
That's hilarious, though. Ben Simmons said it was going to be scary. He scared off all his teammates. That's the wise words of Master Oogway himself.
Wise words, man.
Very wise.
That's crazy.
Shout out to the new viewers, man. Let us see. The Nets are expected to explore trades for Jay Crowder.
Yeah,
he's a Heedle
again. Yeah, probably. He's probably a Heedle.
He's not a Celtic?
Nah, we don't really need that much more wing depth, man. I think we're fine.
Okay.
Nah, he's probably a Heedle.
Tatum.
I was saying he was a Heat a while ago, and you guys were trying to tell me he was a Milwaukee Buck. So apparently I'm right.
He might be that too.
It's one or the other. The only other one that really made sense might have been the Lakers, but I think they're fine now.
Yeah, they don't need another wing now. I think they're probably done.
Dang, hold up. Video just randomly went up to 5 likes. It was at like 1 like 2 seconds ago. They're going crazy, man.
We got viewers, man. We got viewers.
Hey, man, they love to see it, bro. They love to see it. Now we're gonna have to become live streamers. It's almost a necessity. Once like playoff basketball comes around, man, some big games, maybe the All-Star game. Hey, man.
What I realized about live streaming on YouTube, it's a good way to like boost your outreach, and viewership, and just engage with your audience too.
Yeah, definitely. That's the best part, is being able to have that live time engagement. Means more than just the comment section.
Yeah, we just record at very obscure times though, so most people are probably asleep or getting ready to go to bed by the time we start recording. But for the insomniacs, man, we are here for y'all.
That is facts.
I'm one of them, man. So we might have to wrap up here soon, just because it is about 2 a.m. What's crazy is we went over 3 hours with 0 after show. I think this is gonna be a really solid week of basketball content.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Somebody is waving to us from California.
California, man. I think. But
what's up?
What's up to California, man? I'm a comm student myself, so what can I say?
Yeah, crazy week. Tonight's crazy. We got a ton of trades that are likely still coming tomorrow. Jay Crowder's getting moved. The Raptors are doing something. Man.
We'll have a reaction. Week. We'll have a reaction pod Monday. Recording.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah, we should have that. Should be good to go.
Let's go, man. Trade deadline season.
Love to see it, man. Love to see it.
It's gonna be a profane episode, man.
Are you doing a big outro for it since?
Yeah, I'll probably outro it just for the video.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
We appreciate you guys for tuning in to our episode today. Live draft reaction, or live trade reaction of KD. Live reaction for Jakob Poetl. We got an all-star draft in here. Ton of content in here. A ton of wildness happening live on the podcast. We appreciate all of you guys that have tuned in. We appreciate your guys' continued support, and we will see you guys on Monday for our further thoughts on all other trade deadline news. Thank you guys again. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.